LoveLore Library. Chapter 808. In an instant, the old man's expression changed and he glared at Yi Chi fiercely. Shui-Ro-Er's expression did not look too good either. If she had known earlier, she would not have told this idiot her master's name. This idiot really couldn't do anything right, but he was good at spoiling things. Wulin. Jun Fengling laughed. Why have I never heard of such a name in the mainland? May I know who your master is? The old man's face was ashen. He clenched his fists tightly as cold sweat dripped down his back. You've never heard of me. I can only say that you're too ignorant. I dare say that my medical skills are not the best in the world, but I'm definitely second. Is that so? The smile in Jun Fengling's eyes deepened. She slowly walked towards the old man and raised her eyebrows, saying, Then treat me now. I want to see how good you are. The old man gritted his teeth. I won't take back what I said. If that girl doesn't apologize, I won't do anything. Hua. Just as the old man finished speaking, an ice-cold long sword was suddenly pressed against his neck, causing his body to suddenly stiffen. He looked up blankly and saw the woman's valiant and formidable demeanor. She was dressed in red, like the wind and fire, domineering and enchanting. Either you treat me, or you choose to die. There's no way fire can apologize. The old man was completely dumbfounded. On the mainland, doctors had a very respectable status. No matter how powerful a person was, he or she would have to be polite to a famous doctor. However, he did not expect that Jun Fengling, this vicious woman, would be so overbearing that she would threaten him with a sword. The old man swallowed hard, his heart trembling. How could he treat Jun Fengling's physical condition? Or do you not know how to treat it at all? Jun Fengling narrowed her eyes. You came here to cheat and cheat. The old man's eyelids twitched a few times. You. What nonsense are you talking about? You know very well whether I'm spouting nonsense or not. Jun Fengling exerted force with the sword in his hand and a bloody gash appeared on his neck. You should know the price of coming to Kargalik to deceive people. Cold sweat trickled down the old man's forehead and his face was pale. Under Jun Fengling's coercion, he could not hold it in and knelt on the ground with a thud. Madam Yi, I was wrong. I shouldn't have come to the Yi residence to deceive you. I can't cure your illness at all. Please let me go. The old man kowtowed heavily. Compared to saving his life, he didn't care about any dignity. Nothing was more important than staying alive. Yi Chi was stunned. She stared in disbelief at the old man who was kneeling on the ground. Her pretty face was as pale as a sheet. Had she been deceived by this old thing? And because of this, the conflict between him and his eldest brother became deeper and deeper. At the thought of this, Yi Chi was filled with endless anger. He walked forward and kicked the old man's chest hard. Old bastard, how dare you lie to me? She even caused me to quarrel with eldest brother and misunderstood second brother and second sister-in-law. It's all your fault, you old thing. Yi Chi's little face was flushed with anger. She kicked harder and harder, wishing that she could stomp this old thing to death. Remember, it's not so easy to deceive the Yi residents. Besides, I, Jun Fengling, have always been vengeful. Therefore, I will spread the news of your actions today so that everyone in the world understands your virtue. Chapter 809. The old man's legs turned to jelly and he fell to the ground. His eyes were glazed over and he was overwhelmed with despair. Jun Fengling was a member of the Yi family after all. No one would doubt her words. If the world found out about his deceit, there would be no place for him on this mainland. Get out of here. Jun Fengling barked. The old man quickly got up from the ground and ran out of the house. He was afraid that Jun Fengling would take revenge on him if he stayed any longer. Shui Rower stared blankly in the direction where the old man had left. She had yet to recover from the sudden turn of events. Shui Rower. Shouldn't you give me an explanation? Yi Qi shouted angrily. Shui Rower suddenly covered her face and cried when she heard Yi Qi's angry voice. I'm sorry, it's my fault. I trusted my master too much. He told me that he was 80% confident, so I believed him. I really didn't know that he was trying to cheat me of the spirit-gathering liquid. Tears flowed down from the gaps between her fingers. Her body trembled violently. She was very sad. Qi Qi, it's all my fault. I almost hurt your family. I'll never be able to see you again. Shui Rower was already crying so pitifully. How could Yi Qi bear to blame her? Moreover, she believed Shui Rower from the bottom of her heart. She thought that Shui Rower had only been deceived by the martial arts world. Rower, I shouldn't have blamed you just now. You're innocent too. This has nothing to do with you. Yi Qi's expression softened and she comforted her softly. Yun Luofeng could not help but look at Yi Qi when he heard their words. He then looked at Yi Shima and his lips curled into a smile. As expected, Yi Shima's face darkened when he saw that Yi Qi believed Shui Rower so easily. He scoffed coldly and turned to walk into the backyard. Miss Shui, Jun Fingling's eyes lit up and she smiled at the woman who was crying. Moer said that you like Xiao, Shui Rower panicked and quickly defended herself. Madam, I know that my status is low and my family is ordinary. I'm not worthy of Master Xiao. How would I dare to have any improper thoughts? She only claimed that her family background was ordinary, which was why she knew that she couldn't match up with Yun Xiao. However, she never denied whether or not she had taken a fancy to Yun Xiao. After all, in Shui Rower's heart, which mother didn't want her son to be loved by everyone? If she said that she didn't like Yun Xiao, would her mother Jun Fengling still be able to accept her in the future? Oh, Jun Fengling nodded slightly. Fortunately, you do know your place. You know that my Xiao is not someone you can imagine. Shui Rower's face instantly turned pale. She bit her lower lip and didn't make a sound. Yi Qi couldn't bear to see her like this, but she didn't dare to say anything in front of Jun Fengling. She could only look at Shui Rower apologetically. Madam, don't worry. Shui Rower raised her head and revealed a desolate smile. I really don't have any thoughts about young Master Xiao. Even if he has many concubines in the future, I won't be one of them. Even if she couldn't obtain Yun Xiao now, she would definitely make things difficult for Yun Luofeng. She would make him understand that as Yi Jingchen's stepson, Yun Xiao couldn't possibly only have one woman. As such, Shui Rower couldn't help but glance at Yun Luofeng. Chapter 8:10. However, the girl didn't seem to hear her. She was talking to the man next to her in a low voice. She didn't know what she said, but the man's cold expression melted instantly. He looked at her affectionately with his eyes that were as dark as the night. Shui Rower bit her lips, and a sinister look flashed across her eyes. I'll let you be happy for a while. Since Jun Fengling was his mother, she would love for her son to have countless women and grandchildren. No matter how much they loved each other, they couldn't be a couple for the rest of their lives. However, at this moment, the woman's dissatisfied voice came from above her head. I'm relieved that you think that way. But forget about the concubine. I don't want my son's house to be in chaos. If Jun Fengling had been indifferent to Shui Rower in the beginning, it had escalated to the level of dissatisfaction. Shui Rower suddenly reacted, and her face turned paler. How could she forget that Jun Fengling was the only woman Yi Jingchen had for so many years? He didn't take a concubine even when Jun Fengling was infertile. But she was stupid enough to say that Yun Xiao would take a concubine in front of Jun Fengling. Wasn't that equivalent to offending her? Madam, I'm sorry. I didn't mean it. I said the wrong thing. Shui Rower was very upset. How could a strong woman like June Fengling accept a man having multiple wives? Her views had already transcended the secular world. You didn't mean it. June Fengling smiled mockingly. Why do I feel that you're a smart person? How could someone like you not mean it? Forget it. Go away. Don't come to my house and don't interact with my children. June Fengling was so impatient that she didn't want to say anything else. Shui Rower wiped the tears from the corner of her eyes and ran out of the house. Rower! Yi Qi stomped her feet and wanted to chase after Shui Rower. However, before she could take 2 steps, June Fengling's berating voice came from behind. Stop right there. Yi Qi turned around aggrievedly. Godmother, why do you all have to target her? June Fengling sighed. Chi-Chi, listen to your brother. He won't harm you. The ones who will harm you are those who you think are innocent. Yi Qi was stunned. Is adoptive mother referring to Rower? How was this possible? Why would Rower harm her? Go back to your room and think about it. June Fengling glanced at Yi Qi and retracted her gaze. She turned around and walked towards Yun Luofeng and Yun Xiao. Her beautiful face lit up with a smile. Why? Do you two have anything to say to me? Yun Luofeng smiled lazily. I didn't think that you would be Yun Xiao's mother. It looks like we are quite fated. Am I right? Auntie. Why are you still calling me auntie? June Fengling pretended to be dissatisfied, but her red phoenix eyes were smiling. Since you're Xiao's fiancé, it's only natural for you to call me mother. Yun Luofeng smiled. Mother. It was only a matter of time before she and Yun Xiao got married, so it wasn't a big deal for her to call her mother early. That was why she didn't reject June Fengling's suggestion. Good girl. June Fengling beamed when she called her mother. You didn't lose out by calling me mother. After all, I've prepared a gift for you. Then, she took out a jade pendant from her lapel and stuffed it into Yun Luofeng's hand. On the jade pendant, the lifelike word June was dazzling, emitting a bright light under the sun. Chapter 8:11. When they saw June Fengling take out the jade pendant, Yi Jingchen and Yi Qi were stunned. Their eyes were filled with shock. Even though they did not know the origin of the jade pendant, they knew that June Fengling had always treated it as a treasure. Now, she had given it to Yun Luofeng without batting an eye. Normally, she would not even bear to let anyone touch her jade pendant, let alone give it away. This showed how much Yun Luofeng weighed in her heart. This jade pendant has no other use for you. It's just that the material used to make it is rather special. It can block 3 fatal attacks for you. However, it can only be used 3 times. After 3 times, it will become an ordinary jade pendant. Yun Luofeng was stunned. Does this jade pendant have any special meaning for you? Isn't it a little inappropriate for you to give it to me like this? June Fengling smiled. This jade pendant was given to me by my father, your maternal grandfather. It has been with me for many years. However, it has no other use for me other than as a souvenir. You, on the other hand, often provoke powerful enemies. If you don't have something to protect yourself with, I won't be able to rest easy. It was obvious that June Fengling was well aware of Yun Luofeng's personality. This man had always been the type to make a move at the slightest disagreement. No matter where he went, he would always make enemies. This was why she took out the jade pendant she loved so much. Yun Luofeng was touched. Putting the jade pendant's effects aside, the fact that June Fengling had given him a souvenir from her father proved that she saw him as family. Especially since her tone was very indulgent. She did not seem to mind that Yun Luofeng would make enemies. She was only worried about her safety. Jun Fengling smiled at Yun Xiao and asked, "What about you? We haven't seen each other for so many years. Do you have anything to say to me?" Yun Xiao's cold and callous face was slightly moved, but he was still unable to call out the word mother in the end. He thought about it and asked, "Did you arrange a marriage between me and the Ling family?" Hearing this, Jun Fengling furrowed her brows. "I think so. It's been so long, I almost forgot. Where's the token of love?" Yun Xiao's voice was low and hoarse. "I lost it." Jun Fengling curled her lips. "Lost it?" Yun Xiao's face instantly darkened. Just because she lost that token of love, he had to go through so much trouble just to cancel the engagement. "What's wrong?" "People from the Ling family looked for you. He wants to be engaged to you." Jun Fengling raised her eyebrows and asked. Even though Yi Jingchen had an acquaintance in the Roaring Dragon continent and had obtained information about Yun Xiao and Yun Luofeng from that acquaintance, Yi Jingchen did not know much about Yun Xiao and Yun Luofeng. However, the place where the Xiao family was located was not a place that ordinary people could enter. Hence, Jun Fengling knew nothing about what happened in the Xiao family. They wanted to break off the engagement and I agreed. Yun Xiao glanced at Jun Fengling indifferently. But they were certain that even though I agreed verbally, I was unwilling to break off the engagement. So I hid the token of love. What? Upon hearing this, Jun Fengling flew into a rage and said hatefully, "It's not enough for those people to expel you from the Xiao family. He actually came looking for you again and even said that my son was unwilling to break off the engagement with the little girl from the Ling family. Back then, your marriage was decided by those people from the Xiao family. I never thought that the little girl from the Ling family was worthy of you." Yun Zhao's low voice rang out again. "The people from the Xiao family also said that you had been taken away by a mysterious person. That mysterious person was from the Ye family." Chapter 8:12. Jun Fengling was stunned and shook her head. "The people who took me away weren't from the Yi family. Brother Yi and I only met in the Forest of No Return." She turned her head and smiled at Yi Jingchen with her phoenix eyes filled with deep affection. "That year, the mysterious man left after taking me away. I even accidentally received news that the Xiao family's woman had thrown you into the Forest of No Return, so I went there to look for you. Who knew that not only did I not find you, but I was also seriously injured. It was Brother Yi who passed by and saved me and brought me back to the Yi family." Jun Fengling smiled. Her smile was beautiful, so beautiful that it was dazzling. "Xiao, I haven't been by your side all these years, but I'm very clear about what happened between you and Feng. I'm very honored to have such an outstanding son and daughter-in-law." She retracted her gaze and held Yun Luofeng and Yun Zhao's hands, then placed them together tightly. "I don't have any other wishes in this life. I just hope that the two of you can support each other for the rest of your lives." Yi Jingchen silently walked to Jun Fengling's side, the corners of his lips curled into a gentle smile. All these years, only he knew how much Jun Fengling had suffered. If it wasn't for the support of the news from the mainland, she might not have been able to hold on. "Since you've already given me a greeting gift, I've also prepared a gift for you." Yun Luofeng kept the jade pendant and took out 2 fruits from the space ring with a smile. She handed them to Jun Fengling and Yi Jingchen respectively. "These 2 fruits are my greeting gifts for you." Yi Qi was dumbfounded. Her adoptive mother had given her such a precious jade pendant as a greeting gift, but she had only given her 2 fruits to brush her off. How could she be so stingy? Jun Fengling did not mind. She accepted the fruits happily and said, "Isn't there a saying that favors are more important than gifts? The fruits given by my daughter-in-law will definitely be more fragrant than the ones outside. The fruits that Yun Luofeng had taken out were spirit fruits cultivated from the simple red fruit. However, due to some changes in appearance after cultivation, Jun Fengling could not recognize that it was the simple red fruit. She brought the fruit to her lips and took a gentle bite. Instantly, a fragrant juice flowed between her teeth, making her feel extremely comfortable. Boom! Suddenly, Jun Fengling's body trembled, and a powerful surge of spiritual energy burst out of her body, breaking through the bottleneck that was blocking her advancement. Above her head, the spiritual qi of heaven and earth was still lingering, as if announcing her successful advancement. What happened? Yi Shima hurriedly ran in from the backyard. The moment he walked in, he saw that his parents and sister were stunned on the spot. A look of confusion flashed across his face. But very quickly, he was also stunned. He looked at the spirit qi circling above Jun Fengling's head and asked blankly, "Godmother, you broke through?" Godmother had been stuck at the bottleneck for a few years and had not shown any signs of breaking through. Why did she suddenly break through now? Jun Fengling was the first to return to her senses. She clearly understood that she had been able to break through because of the fruit that Yun Luofeng had given her. A strange light could not help but appear in her eyes. "Fenger, can you tell me what's going on?" In an instant, everyone's gazes were focused on Yun Luofeng, waiting for her to give an answer. Chapter 8:13. Yun Luofeng shrugged. "Your luck is quite good. You just happened to be at a bottleneck, so you could use the spirit fruit to break through." Of course, there was another reason why Jun Fengling could break through. The reason for this was that a few days ago, she suddenly had the idea to water the bottle of holy water that she had obtained from Lin Ruobai's father on the aubergine tree. However, she still did not know what effect the spiritual fruit would have after being watered with holy water, so she took this opportunity to experiment. He did not expect the spiritual fruit to be more useful than before, as it could help venerable spiritualists break through. It was indeed beyond her expectations. Thinking of this, Yun Luofeng couldn't help but look towards Yun Xiao. "These things are useless to me." Yun Xiao saw through Yun Luofeng's thoughts and explained. The cultivation technique that he had learned was rather special. These items that borrowed external forces to break through were of no use to him. Yun Luofeng raised his eyebrows, but he was not disappointed at all. As long as he became a venerable spiritualist, he would be able to dual cultivate with Yun Xiao. At that time, both of their strengths would increase. "Sister-in-law, I didn't expect you to have such a good thing." Yi Shima looked at Yun Luofeng resentfully. "Why didn't you give me a greeting gift?" Yun Luofeng glanced at Yi Shima. "If you encounter a bottleneck when you break through to become a venerable spiritualist, I can sell you a fruit." The corners of Yi Shima's mouth twitched, and his eyes were filled with resentment. "Sister-in-law, you're biased. You're the one who gave them to my adoptive parents. Why should I have to spend money to buy them?" Yun Luofeng nodded in agreement. "I am indeed very biased, but there is nothing I can do about it." "Who asked me to be biased?" Yi Shima was so aggrieved that he was about to cry. His eyes were filled with resentment as if he had been abandoned. "Big brother Yi," Yun Luofeng did not know whether to laugh or cry. She patted Yi Shima's shoulder and smirked. "Forget it, I won't tease you anymore. I'll give you one of these spirit fruits when you become a venerable spirit." Yi Shima finally smiled. Yun Luofeng's guarantee was more important than anything else. Yi Qi also wanted Yun Luofeng's spirit fruit, but when she thought about what she had done to him before, she couldn't bring herself to say it. Yun Luofeng raised his eyebrows and looked at Jun Fengling. "I heard that you're infertile." Jun Fengling nodded, sighed, and said, "The hidden illness from back then has caused me to be unable to have children now, and I've found countless famous doctors to treat it. Because of this, they were chased out of the Yi family." "Let me see," Yun Luofeng said after thinking for a while. All right. June Fengling knew Yun Luofeng's strength, so she didn't refuse. She smiled. However, you don't have to feel burdened. It's fine even if my body can't be cured. It's just a pity that I can't give Brother Yi a son or daughter. She already had Yun Xiao, so naturally, she did not mind. Therefore, she regretted that she could not leave a trace of Yi Jingchen's bloodline. Do you need to take my pulse? June Fengling looked up and stretched out her wrist. I never take the pulse when I treat a patient. To her, she only needed to look at a person to know their illness. Therefore, the first time she saw June Fengling, she knew the condition of her body. However, that was only a rough observation. If she wanted to understand more, she would have to observe carefully. After a long time, Yun Luofeng withdrew his gaze. I understand your illness. It's not a big problem. I can treat it. Chapter 8:14. I can treat you. The girl's light voice was like a heavy hammer that hammered into the hearts of everyone present, causing their hearts to tremble. June Fengling stared at the girl in a daze, clearly unable to react to her words. Are you telling the truth? Could she really treat her? Yun Luofeng nodded slightly. I'm lacking some herbs. Get someone to bring me those herbs later. From today onwards, I'll start treating your illness. June Fengling and Yi Jingchen looked at each other and saw the excitement in each other's eyes. If she could really get pregnant, the Yi family would no longer have the right to expel them from the family. All right. Yi Jingchen suppressed the excitement in his heart and said, give me the list of herbs you need. I'll send someone to get them right away. She had long heard of Yun Luofeng's medical skills. Hence, since she was certain that she could treat her, she believed that she definitely had the ability to do so. Brother Yi, I'll leave this matter to you. I still have a lot to discuss with Xiao, and Feng. Don't disturb us before dinner. She winked at Yi Jingchen before pulling Yun Luofeng's hand and walking towards the backyard. Yun Xiao naturally followed when she saw that Yun Luofeng was being pulled away. Yi Shima retracted his gaze from Yun Luofeng and turned to look at the pale-faced Yi Qi. He frowned slightly and said, they're your brother and sister-in-law. You should be more polite to them in the future. Don't be used by others. Yi Qi was stunned. She lowered her head and muttered softly, was also deceived. She's innocent. Even though she said it very softly, Yi Shima still heard her. He laughed coldly and said, I don't care how much trust you have in Shui Rou. I only know that they're relatives of my godfather and godmother. All these years, without them, the two of us wouldn't exist. No matter what, I won't let you do anything to hurt my brother and sister-in-law. At this point, he paused for a moment before continuing, if you were someone else, I wouldn't have said a word to you. I'm willing to say so much to you because you're my younger sister. I don't want our family to never have a peaceful day. He had never seen Yun Xiao before, but he knew how much hardship his younger brother had suffered outside. Now that he and his sister-in-law had finally returned, how could he allow someone to continue hurting them? Yi Qi raised her eyebrows. I don't like that Yun Luofeng. Who asked you to scold me for those people? But I like my adoptive father and adoptive mother. For the sake of my adoptive father and mother, I won't do anything to harm them. Don't worry. Yi Shima did not say anything else. He glanced at Yi Qi coldly, turned around, and walked toward the backyard. If his sister wasn't so stupid, she might be a good person. Unfortunately, he didn't like her stupidity. Yi Qi lowered her eyebrows slightly. A look of struggle flashed across her eyes, but she finally chose to walk out of the Yi residence's main door. Yi Qi had just walked into a tall and luxurious restaurant when she bumped into a woman in red. The woman's appearance was exceptionally beautiful, like a red peony, gorgeous and luxurious. Wait a minute. Seeing that Yi Chi was about to pass by, the woman in red suddenly called out and stopped her. Chapter 8:15. You again. Yi Chi frowned slightly and looked at the woman in red impatiently. She asked, "Why are you always pestering me?" This woman had been saying good things about Yun Xiao in front of her ever since she found her a few days ago. However, she already had Yi Shimo in her heart. No matter how good other men were, she would not like them. "Miss Yi, I don't have any bad intentions. I'm just telling you what I know. It's said that your second brother, who has been missing for a long time, is a good man who is infatuated with love. If you can get him, he will definitely be devoted to you. So, I just want to help you." "Sorry, I'm not interested." Yi Chi's face darkened. "Don't look for me if you don't have anything else to say. If my godparents hear what you said, they will definitely not let me go." Hearing this, Jinyu raised her eyebrows slightly. "It's true that you have no interest in Yun Xiao, but I know who the person in your heart is." Yi Chi's body suddenly froze. She turned around with a cold look in her pretty eyes. "What do you mean by that?" Jinyu's face was cold and elegant. "Don't you understand what I mean? Do you want me to say in public that the person you like is Yi Shimo? However, I heard that Yun Luofeng and Yun Xiao have come here. Moreover, the person in your heart is protecting them and going against you. Don't you hate them?" She successfully saw Yi Chi's expression change drastically. Then, she slowly approached her. "So, we can cooperate. As long as you're willing." "Enough." Yi Chi's body trembled slightly and she shouted angrily, "My godparents gave me my life. Do you want me to bite the hand that feeds me? So what if I hate them? I won't do anything to make my godmother sad." Jinyu was stunned. Just as she was about to continue to provoke Yi Chi, the delicate figure had already stepped into the second floor and disappeared from her sight. Looking at the direction in which Yi Chi had left, Jinyu's heart suddenly sank. A cold smile appeared on her gorgeous face. She turned around and wanted to walk out of the restaurant. However, at this moment, a delicate voice sounded from the side. "Do you know Yun Luofeng?" Jinyu raised her eyebrows. When she turned her eyes reflected a soft and beautiful face. The woman was dressed in white and pretentious. Even though there was a flash of hatred in her eyes, it was still easily captured by Jinyu. "You are?" Jinyu frowned and asked. Shui Rower clenched her fists tightly. "I'm Yi Chi's friend, and I have a special relationship with the Yi family. You know Yun Luofeng?" Jinyu raised the corner of her lips. "She has a grudge against you." "That's right. Our hatred is absolutely irreconcilable." Shui Roer purposely lowered her voice, and her eyes were filled with intense hatred. If someone didn't know what was going on, they would have thought that Shui Roer had dug up her ancestors' graves. "Tell me about it." Jinyu was very interested. Yun Luofeng hadn't been in the Wuhui continent for long, and he had already made an enemy. Or an irreconcilable enemy. TSK, looks like my master was right. A person like Yun Luofeng is a disaster. There was no one she hadn't provoked before. Shui Roer concealed the viciousness in her eyes. "She stole my man. Isn't this an irreconcilable hatred?" Jinyu was startled. Her lips curled into a sarcastic arc. "Your man? Are you talking about Yun Xiao?" Chapter 8:16. That's right. Shui Roer scoffed. "I don't think I'm worse than Yun Luofeng. I'm just weaker because I met Yun Xiao later than her. But I really don't understand why Yun Xiao's mother thinks so highly of her and belittles me. As far as I know, Yun Luofeng came from the Longshao mainland and his status is even lower than mine." Jinyu's face gradually turned cold. She didn't like to hear these words. What did she mean by she wasn't worse than Yun Luofeng? If Yun Luofeng was bad, why would her master try so hard to marry her? Did she mean that Yun Xiao had bad taste? Did that mean that her master had bad taste too? Jin Yu loved Bai Su deeply. How could she allow anyone to say bad things about her? Hence, anger surged in her heart and she sneered, "If you want to get Yun Xiao, there's a way." "What way?" Shui Roer's eyes lit up and she asked. A sinister look flashed across Jin Yu's eyes. "I have a bottle of medicinal liquid here. You just need to spray it on your body and the person you want to seduce will fall deeply in love with you." As soon as she finished speaking, Jin Yu took out a porcelain bottle from her lapel and handed it to Shui Roer. "I originally wanted to give this medicinal liquid to Yi Qi. In the end, that girl didn't fall for my trick, so I can only give it to you." Shui Roer took the medicinal liquid hesitantly and asked, "Can this medicinal liquid really make Yun Xiao fall in love with me?" She had always been vigilant. Who knew if this medicinal liquid was poisonous? That was why she asked such a question. Jin Yu sneered, "Only one drop of the medicinal liquid can have such an effect. If you don't believe me, you can find someone else to try. This is all I can help you with." Hearing this, Shui Roer put away the medicinal liquid with ease. She looked up at Jin Yu and asked hesitantly, "Then why are you helping me?" Jin Yu glanced at her. "My master has taken a fancy to Yun Luofeng and naturally wants to separate them. Otherwise, why do you think I'm looking for Yi Qi? That's all I have to say. Whether you're willing to use this medicinal liquid or not is up to you." She was not as patient with Shui Roer as she was with Yi Qi. After saying what she needed to say, she left the restaurant without any hesitation. Not long after Jin Yu walked out of the restaurant, she turned into an alley. At this moment, a small figure fell from the sky and landed in front of her. "Master." Jin Yu knelt on the ground, cupped her fists and said respectfully. Standing in front of her was a little boy of a few years old. He looked very cute, but his face carried a demonic charm and coldness that did not match his age. A pair of black eyes flickered with a cold and gloomy light. "Why did you do that?" Bai Su slowly walked towards Jin Yu and gently raised her chin, looking down at the woman who was kneeling on the ground. "Don't you know that Yun Xiao is immune to all poisons? Your charm has no effect on him." Jin Yu lowered her head. "This subordinate knows, but that little girl is too presumptuous. She actually claimed that she was not worse than Yun Luofeng. If Yun Luofeng was really that bad, Master wouldn't want to marry her. This subordinate just doesn't like it when others question Master's judgment. This is why I made the decision on my own. Please forgive me, Master." In the beginning, Jin Yu did not acknowledge Yun Luofeng's excellence. However, she had witnessed his growth over the past year. If not for this, Master would not have wanted to rope her in. Chapter 8:17. Forget it, I can forgive you for this, but you can't make decisions on your own in the future. Bai Su raised her hand and helped Jin Yu up from the ground. Our plan to make use of the Yi family has been destroyed. Now, I can only recover from my injuries. Yes. Jin Yu raised her head and her expression returned to its usual coldness. In the private room of the restaurant, Yi Qi looked at the table full of dishes and had no appetite. She leaned against the back of the chair tiredly and lowered her head. At this moment, the door of the private room was opened. When she saw Shui Roer walking in, her eyes suddenly lit up. She stood up and said, "Roer, you're here." Shui Roer smiled gently. Her picturesque eyebrows relaxed and she walked towards Yi Qi. "Qi, you must have waited for a long time, right?" "Sorry, I had something to attend to, so I'm late." "It's okay," Yi Qi waved her hand generously. "These dishes are a little cold. I'll get the waiter to heat them up later. By the way, Rower, where did you go just now? Why are there straws on you? Yi Chi raised her hand and brushed away the straw on Shui Rower's back. Her eyes were full of curiosity. At this moment, she did not see the fluster in Shui Rower's eyes when she brushed away the straw. I don't know where I got it from. Shui Rower calmed down and smiled. It's getting late. Let's eat first. You should go back after that. Otherwise, Madame Yi will definitely be angry. I don't want to destroy the harmony of your family because of me. Shui Rower lowered her head sadly. Her face was full of depression. Her expression seemed to be happy that Yi Chi's family was reunited, but at the same time, she was sad that Yi Chi could no longer be friends with her. Yi Chi originally wanted to question Shui Rower if she really wanted to hit on Yun Xiao. However, seeing her like this, she could not say anything. She opened her mouth to comfort Shui Rower. However, before she could say anything, a burly man broke through the door and said while panting, "Rower, something happened to your family." What did you say? Shui Rower blinked in confusion and asked, "What happened to my family?" Your house has been burned down. Your sick mother has also been buried in the sea of fire. The burly man seemed to have used all his strength to say this sentence. Shui Rower's vision turned black and her body fell backwards. Yi Chi reacted quickly and held Shui Rower's body. Her voice was trembling. How did this happen? Why would there be a fire in Rower's house for no reason? Just when Yi Chi's eyes were filled with anxiety, Shui Rower, who had her eyes closed, opened her eyes and made eye contact with the burly man. I don't know what happened either. The muscular man's eyes flickered as he said, I heard from the neighbors that there's a little girl in red clothes around Rower's house. I'm not sure if she has anything to do with the fire. An 8 or 9-year-old girl dressed in red. Could it be fire? Yi Chi did not see the exchange of gazes between the two of them, so when she heard the sturdy man's words, the first thing she thought of was fire. Who asked that little girl to be someone with a criminal record? Chi. Shui Rower grabbed Yi Chi's hand tightly as tears flowed from her eyes. I believe in fire. This matter definitely has nothing to do with her. Even though she beat me up fiercely, I don't believe that this girl is so ruthless that she would set a fire and kill someone. It's just that my poor old mother, who was paralyzed in bed, left me just like that. Chapter 8:18. Shui Rower covered her lips and sobbed, her eyes brimming with tears. Her words sounded like she was exonerating fire, but in fact, she was telling Yi Chi that the person who set the fire and killed people was fire. That girl had beaten her up so fiercely back then. What else could she not do? Yi Chi was so angry that she almost rushed over to settle the score with fire. However, just as she was about to act, she suddenly remembered Yi Shima's cold gaze and instantly sobered her up. Let's go to the Yi residence first. I'll ask if she was the one who did this. Besides, you have nowhere to go now, so I'll ask my adoptive mother to let you stay for a few days. Shui Rower was stunned. She even forgot to cry. According to Yi Chi's personality, after hearing this, shouldn't she immediately kill fire to avenge her? But why did she have to ask about the truth? But no matter what, he could stay in the Yi residence tonight. As long as he stayed there, he would have a chance to get Yun Xiao. Once Yun Xiao fell in love with her, she would have the right to speak in Yi City. Compared to the disputes in the outside world, the Yi residence was happy and harmonious. However, at this moment, a servant walked in from outside and hurriedly reported, Master, Madam, Miss is back. Miss Shui has also come with her. Outside, everyone called Yi Jingchen young master, but the servants in the Yi residence all called him master. Hearing that Shui Rower had come to the Yi residence again, Yi Jingchen and his wife's faces did not look too good. I've already said that my family does not welcome that girl. Why is Chi-Chi so disobedient? Jun Fengling frowned. Besides, I told Chi-Chi to stay at home and reflect on her mistakes. Who allowed her to go out? Madam, Miss claimed that Miss Shue's house was caught in a fire and there is no other place to live now. The servant reported respectfully. Moreover, the young miss said that she brought Miss Shue here because she has something to verify. Jun Fengling's eyes darkened. Let them in. I want to know what they are here to verify. As Jun Fengling's adopted daughter, Yi Qi did not need to report to Jun Fengling to see her. However, she had brought Shui Rou with her, which was why she was stopped. Yun Xiao remained expressionless in the face of all of this. Her expression was cold as she silently peeled the skin of the grape for Yun Luofeng, before placing the sparkling and translucent flesh by her lips. Ahem. Jun Fengling coughed and glared at Yi Jingchen. Look at how considerate my son is. How warm. Why don't you learn it? Yi Jingchen chuckled and hugged Jun Fengling's shoulder. You should have told me earlier if you wanted me to feed you grapes. When have I not satisfied your request? Jun Fengling slapped Yi Jingchen's hand away and said coquettishly, Do you need me to tell you this? Doing it yourself and needing me to remind you to do it are completely different. If you want me to give you advice, then this matter is meaningless. I think you should ask my son for advice. Yi Jingchen coughed awkwardly. He was already an old man, yet he still wanted to ask a junior for advice on how to please a woman. However, if he could make Jun Fengling smile, it was not impossible for him to ask for advice. However, if the old antiques of the Yi family knew about this, they would probably nag them for a long time. While Yi Jingchen was deep in thought, Yi Qi and Shui Rou had already walked in. At this moment, Shui Rou looked extremely weak. Her face was pale as if she had just suffered a huge blow and would collapse at any time. Chapter 8:19. Chi-Chi, Jun Fengling frowned and asked, You said that you wanted to verify something with us. I don't know what you want to verify. Yi Qi looked at the fire who was sitting at the table and eating an apple. Adoptive mother, just now, Rower's house was caught in a fire. According to witnesses, they saw the fire appear there, so I wanted to verify where the fire went half an hour ago. Fire took a bite of the apple, looked up at Yi Qi, and said in a childish voice, You mean, I set fire to her house? Yi Qi bit her lips. That's not what I meant. I'm just here to ask where you were at that time. Even if you don't mean that, you're still suspecting that I set the fire. Fire sneered and stood up. He threw half of the apple in his hand at Shui Rou. Shui Rou was caught off guard. With a bang, she was hit by the apple and her forehead turned red. Yi Qi was stunned. She didn't expect Fire to make a move without saying a word. What's more, there wasn't even a word of explanation. Did you see it clearly? Fire glanced at Shui Rou and proudly raised his chin. If I want to hit her, I will hit her. If I want to kill her, I will kill her. I will never deny what I have done. However, you want me to bear the crime of arson. I'm sorry, but I won't take the blame. Yi Qi fell silent. This girl dared to hit Shui Rou in front of them. If she was really the one who set the fire, she wouldn't deny it. Since she didn't admit it, did that mean that she wasn't the one who set the fire? Chi-Chi, Shui Rou came back to her senses. She rubbed her aching head and looked at Yi Qi with tears in her eyes. I told you at the time that she wasn't the one who set the fire. You should believe me and not ask about this. Yi Qi was obviously standing up for her, but in her mouth, it was a busybody. Jun Fengling's eyes darkened. She had lived for so many years and fought with so many people. How could she not understand the meaning behind Shui Roer's words? Since it has been proven that the fire was not set by fire, then there is nothing else. Jun Fengling turned to look at Shui Roer. I know that you have nowhere to go these few days, but unfortunately, I don't have any extra rooms for you in the Yi residence. You should go to the inn to stay. Shui Roer's expression changed. The Yi residence was so big, how could there not be extra rooms? Jun Fengling did not want her to stay at all. Madam. Shui Roer hurriedly knelt down and kowtowed, please take me in. I won't stay here for long, just a few more nights. I promise I won't cause trouble for Madam, nor will I spy on young Master Xiao. After she finished kowtowing, she hurriedly knelt in front of Yun Luofeng and said pitifully, Miss Yun, I know you have some misunderstandings about me, but I swear that I really have never had any thoughts about young Master Xiao. I beg you to let me stay for a few days. I am willing to be your maid and serve you. I'll let you be complacent for now. When I successfully obtain Yun Zhao's favor, I'll make you pay the price for today's matter. Shui Roer lowered her eyes and a ruthless glint flashed across them. Godmother. Yi Qi could not bear it and was about to speak up for Shui Roer when Jun Fengling stopped her coldly. Enough. It was my idea not to let you stay. Don't harass my daughter-in-law. If you insist on doing so, don't blame me for being rude. She slammed her palm on the table. In an instant, the table split into two and fell to the ground. Chapter 820. Jun Fengling's palm was too strong, Shui Roer was scared silly by her. Her misty eyes were filled with confusion as she stared blankly at Jun Fengling, who was dressed in red. Mother-in-law and daughter-in-law were natural enemies because they had the same man, therefore, back then, her mother and grandmother had fought every night for the same man and were even chased out of her father's family. Now, if she didn't know that she had the confidence to become the daughter-in-law of the Yi family, her father's family wouldn't have agreed to let her re-enter the family tree. Therefore, this was the first time she had seen a mother-in-law who protected her daughter-in-law like Jun Fengling. What made her worried was that the person being protected was not her. Shui Roer subconsciously bit her lower lip, her long eyelashes covering the viciousness in her eyes. After a long while, she calmed herself down, raised her pitiful face and said softly, I'm sorry to disturb you. It's hard for people like me to be accepted by others. Don't worry, I won't pester the Yi family anymore, and I won't appear in front of Chi-Chi either. After saying that, Shui Roer looked at Yi Qi one last time, her eyes filled with struggle and reluctance. In the end, she turned around and walked out of the hall. Roer! Yi Qi hurriedly shouted, her eyes filled with anxiety. However, she knew that her foster mother didn't like Shui Roer, so she didn't dare to plead for her. Wait! Suddenly, an evil voice rang out, causing Shui Roer to stop in her tracks. Fenger. Jun Fengling looked at Yun Luofeng doubtfully, do you have something else to say? Mother, I am naturally protective. Since fire is already mine, I will not allow anyone to frame her. Yun Luofeng narrowed her eyes slightly, an evil light flashing in her eyes, so, since she has stepped into the Yi residence, she can forget about leaving. Shui Roer's body stiffened. She turned to look at Yun Luofeng with a pale face, you. What do you mean by that? I was in the restaurant at that time, and Chi-Chi can testify. It was someone else who came to inform me that I found out about what happened to my family. Furthermore, someone who looked like fire appeared beside my house, and it was also seen by others. I have always believed in her. Yi Qi nodded and echoed, Roer is telling the truth. I can testify that she didn't know about it in advance. Chi-Chi. Jun Fengling frowned and stopped Yi Qi. She looked at Yun Luofeng. Fenger, you did well. Fire could not be wronged for no reason. So, I support your actions. Yun Luo Feng smirked. Since that's the case, I'll let Shui Ro stay in the Yi residence. I'll fulfill her wish. Before that, I'll send someone to investigate the truth. In other words, Shui Ro was under house arrest in the Yi residence. She would only be released when Yun Luo Feng found out who the arsonist was. However, only Shui Ro knew the truth. She slightly lowered her eyes. I did not wrongly accuse Fire, I only verified it through the witness's description. Maybe that person is a girl who looks similar to Fire. However, since all of you are suspecting me, I will stay. I believe that Madame Yi will clear my name and not allow someone to frame me. Jun Fingling's face darkened. Even now, this girl was still so shameless. In his words, he actually said that Yun Luo Feng was framing her. Chapter 821. Just as Jun Fengling was about to stand up for Yun Luo Feng, a cold voice was heard. My wife, even if she framed you, you have no choice but to accept it. The man raised his handsome face. His facial paralysis made him look indifferent as he stared at Shui Ro coldly. His gaze froze her body, as if countless knives were slicing her once again. His voice was as merciless as ever. Besides, I don't think you have the right to be framed by her. Shui Ro's face turned paler and paler. Her body swayed a few times and she almost fell to the ground. What made her even angrier was that Yi Qi did not speak up for her at such a time. She allowed these people to bully her. Yi Qi felt Shui Ro's pleading gaze and lowered her head in shame. She would fight for Shui Ro when she faced Yi Shimo. However, she did not have the courage to refute Yi Jingchen and his wife. That was because her adoptive father and mother were the people she respected the most. She had already rebelled against their wishes. How could she continue to support them now? She could only comfort Shui Ro after this matter was over. Brother Yi, Jun Fengling did not even look at Shui Ro and turned to Yi Jingchen. Send 2 people to watch over her. I don't want this woman to cause any trouble for the Yi family. Also, lock her up somewhere far away from Shao. Don't let her disturb others here. Obviously, Jun Fengling did not want Shui Ro to have a chance to get close to Yun Shao. Even if Yun Shao did not like her, she would still feel disgusted. Yi Jingchen smiled gently before he barked, Guards, take Shui Ro away and lock her up. She is not allowed to appear in the main courtyard. As soon as he finished speaking, 2 guards walked in and cupped their fists respectfully. Yes, sir. Ro, Seeing that the 2 guards were holding Shui Ro, Yi Qi hurriedly held her hand and comforted her. Don't worry. If you really didn't frame Huohua on purpose, my adoptive mother will definitely clear your name. I'll let you suffer for a few days. Shui Ro smiled miserably. She didn't answer Yi Qi's question and followed the 2 guards out of the door. At this moment, Yi Qi did not notice the sinister glint that flashed across her eyes. Instead, she was still worried about what had happened to her. Qi, go down and rest. Jun Fingling's voice was no longer as cold as before, but carried a hint of helplessness. If Shui Ro really wronged Fire, I will not let her off so easily. You should be mentally prepared. Yi Qi shuddered and turned to face Jun Fengling. Godmother, if she really did that, I can't forgive her. But I believe her. It's not just because she's my friend, but because her mother died in the Sea of Fire this time. She can't use her mother's life to frame others, can she? Jun Fengling shook her head. She knew that this time, they must have misunderstood Fire. However, this misunderstanding was not Roer's original intention, and she was also someone who did not know. The mainland is so big. There will always be people who don't recognize their own family. Jun Fingling's tone gradually became indifferent. Perhaps you will understand in the future. For now, you should go and reflect on your actions these few days. Yes. Yi Qi bowed and left. After the two of them left, the atmosphere in the hall could no longer return to its previous cheerful and harmonious atmosphere. Chapter 822. June Fingling's lips curled into a smile as she turned to look at Yun Luofeng. You two must be tired, right? Go back and rest. I'll get the servant girl to wake you up before dinner. As he spoke, June Fengling kept winking at Yun Xiao, not forgetting to instruct, make the baby well. Yun Luofeng's expression was a little awkward. Even though she had shared a bed with Yun Xiao for so many days, nothing had actually happened. Making a baby was obviously impossible. However, Yun Xiao coldly agreed to June Fingling's request. Okay. Okay. Yun Luofeng's expression darkened. Yun Xiao. Yun Xiao, who had always been obedient, didn't go along with Yun Luofeng this time. His cold eyes were filled with determination. We'll make a baby very soon. Don't be too fast. It's better to take it slow. June Fengling smiled evilly. Yun Xiao was stunned. She looked at Yun Luofeng in confusion as if asking her what June Fengling meant. Yun Luofeng's expression darkened. She never thought that June Fengling would be so dirty. I won't disturb you anymore. Ha! June Fengling looked at Yun Luofeng's darkened expression and couldn't help but be in a good mood. She said, Yi Ji, let's go back to our room and rest. However, when she walked to Yun Zhao's side, she paused and the smile on her lips deepened. Son, work hard. Mother is waiting to hold a grandson. After speaking, she walked out of the hall with Yi Jingchen, leaving the extra space for the two of them. Seeing that the hall had become empty, Yun Luofeng took a few steps closer to Yun Xiao and smiled evilly. Do you want to know what your mother meant? Yun Xiao nodded honestly. He really wanted to know. Your mother means. Yun Luofeng's lips moved to Yun Zhao's side, an evil glint flickered in his dark eyes. When you're in bed, she wants you to last a little longer. Yun Xiao looked up at Yun Luofeng and said in a hoarse voice, all these years, no matter how much my power has grown, I've never given up on training my body. What does this have to do with endurance? A strong body will also have a strong endurance. Yun Xiao paused and continued, so, you can rest assured. Yun Luofeng smiled. She reached her hand into Yun Zhao's shirt, her fingers slowly brushing past the man's abdominal muscles. Indeed, the first time I saw you, I was attracted by your abs. If Yun Xiao hadn't taken off his clothes, it was hard to imagine that he would have these 8-pack abs. After all, from the outside, one could not see the muscles on his body. In layman's terms, he looked thin when he wore clothes, but he was muscular when he took them off. He had a perfect figure. No. This fellow was a grade higher than the standard figure. Looks like I need to find a way to become a venerable spiritualist as soon as possible. Yun Luofeng withdrew his hand and rubbed his chin as he mumbled to himself. Night fell. Deep into the night. Inside the woodshed, Shui stood up from the ground full of dried firewood. She patted the dust off her body and walked towards the door. However, the door was locked by a chain, making it impossible for her to open it from the inside. Her expression darkened, and a vicious light flashed in her eyes like a dagger dipped in poison. June Fengling, I didn't think that you'd guard against me to this extent. Once I've bewitched your son, you'll have to accept me even if you don't want to. Who asked your son to love me? Chapter 823. Shui sneered in her heart. All these years, June Fengling had been separated from her son for many years. Therefore, she felt very guilty towards him and wanted to make it up to him. Otherwise, why would he indulge Yun Luofeng so much? But if I become her daughter-in-law, she can only indulge me like this. Otherwise, how could her son so easily forgive her for abandoning him for so many years? The funny thing was that Shui Rou didn't know that Jun Fingling's indulgence towards Yun Luofeng wasn't because of his guilt towards Yun Shao. She did feel guilty, but she didn't indulge Yun Luofeng because of this. She accepted Yun Luofeng because of Yun Luofeng himself. Otherwise, with Jun Fingling's character, even if he had reluctantly accepted her as a daughter-in-law for the sake of his son, he would not be so protective of her. Just from the fact that Jun Fengling had given the most precious thing to Yun Luofeng, it was clear that she liked this daughter-in-law from the bottom of her heart. Love me, love my dog. But more importantly, it depended on her own charm. Shui Rou raised her brows. The coldness in her eyes gradually disappeared and was replaced by a pitiful look. Big brother guards, I want to go out and relieve myself. Can you let me go for a while? At the entrance of the woodshed, the two guards looked at each other in dismay. Shortly after, one of the guards coldly said, Madam has already given the order that you are not allowed to leave the woodshed. If you want to urinate, do it on the spot. Shui Rou's eyes flickered and she continued, but there is no chamber pot in this shed. If the two of you are unwilling to let me leave, why don't you give me a chamber pot? The two guards hesitated for a while before saying, all right, wait a moment. Shui Rou wasn't capable enough to escape from their hands, so they went to prepare a chamber pot for her. Shui Rou's lips curled into a sinister smile as she listened to the sound of footsteps getting further and further away. She then took out the aphrodisiac that Jinyu had given her and dripped a drop of it on herself. This aphrodisiac was colorless and odorless, so ordinary people would not be able to feel anything. Not long after, the sound of chains being unlocked came from outside. Soon after, the two guards walked in from outside and blocked the entrance like door gods. The chamber pot is for you. The guard was expressionless. He placed the chamber pot on the ground and said coldly, Thank you, big brothers. Shui Rou raised her brows and smiled delicately. Her voice was very gentle, like a claw scratching their hearts. The two guards were usually calm people, but when they saw Shui Rou's gaze, their hearts almost jumped out of their chests. This was the first time they realized how beautiful Shui Rou was. Cough cough. One of the guards let out 2 dry coughs, trying to calm his racing heart. However, he couldn't help but steal glances at Shui Rou from time to time with a bashful expression. Seeing that the aphrodisiac was effective, Shui Rou was elated. However, she didn't show it on her face. Big brothers, I'm bored in this woodshed. I want to go out and get some fresh air. Is that okay? I promise I won't leave the Yi residence. The two guards looked at each other, and there was a struggle in their eyes. Madam has ordered that you are not allowed to leave. Shui Rou immediately raised 2 fingers and swore, I swear that I won't go to the main courtyard and I won't leave the Yi residence. I just want to be alone. Big brothers, please help me. Chapter 824. Her fingers tugged on the sleeve of one of the guards. Her eyes were filled with pleading as she stared at him. At this moment, in the eyes of the 2 guards, Shui Rou was a glowing object. Her entire body was filled with light that could move their emotions. How could she refuse their request? You must come back as soon as possible. We will still lock the door here and pretend that you are still in the woodshed. In addition, I will tell you some places that we must pass by during our patrol. You must remember to avoid those places. If the madam finds out, we will all die. Shui Rou was ecstatic. She quickly said, Thank you, brothers. I will never forget your kindness. Then, she hurriedly walked out of the woodshed and looked around. After making sure that no one was around, she hurriedly walked towards the main courtyard. In the room, the fragrance of incense filled the air. Yun Luofeng, who was sitting cross-legged with his eyes closed, slowly opened his eyes and saw Yun Shao leaving the room. "Yun Shao, where are you going?" Yun Shao stopped in his tracks, the corners of his cold and stiff lips gradually curled into a shallow arc. "You ate too little for dinner. Perhaps you don't like the chefs in the Yi residence. So, I am going to prepare supper for you." Years ago, after Yun Luofeng tasted Yun Zhao's cooking in the country of flowing gold, he returned to the country of Long Yuan and asked Yiling to transfer the chefs in his residence over. Who knew that Qing Yan would tell her that the person who sat at the table that day was Yun Shao? It was then that she learned of Yun Zhao's culinary skills. "Okay, I will wait for you to come back." Yun Luofeng smiled. Yun Shao pushed open the door and walked out. The night was getting quieter and quieter. The night wind blew and only the sound of leaves rustling could be heard. At this moment, Yun Shao was only thinking about Yun Luofeng's supper. Therefore, he didn't see the woman who was rushing towards him. The woman didn't know if it was intentional or not, but when she saw Yun Shao walking towards her, she did not dodge. Instead, she ran towards him. Therefore, by the time Yun Shao realized that the woman was rushing towards him, the woman was already in front of him. It was too late to dodge. Therefore, he made his move without hesitation. "Fuck off." The man's voice was cold and emotionless. His aura exploded and the woman's delicate body was sent flying. She fell to the ground in a sorry state. Shui Roer never expected Yun Shao to be so violent despite his good looks. Under normal circumstances, if a beauty like her was about to fall in front of him, shouldn't he be supporting her? But not only did he not help him up, he even attacked him. It was as if she was some kind of germ that would taint her the moment she came into contact with it. At the thought of this, Shui Roer crawled up from the ground. With tears in her eyes, she looked at Yun Shao pitifully. "Young Master Shao, I'm sorry. I didn't do it on purpose. I just didn't see you appear." She had a beautiful face, a gentle expression, and tears in her eyes, which made people involuntarily want to protect her. Such a woman should be loved by many men. However, Yun Shao was not one of those men. "Young Master Shao, actually, I fell in love with you from the first time I saw you," Shui Roer said affectionately. "I am different from Yun Luofeng. She must have known your identity, that's why she got close to you. As for me, my love for you has no ulterior motives. Even if you are not a member of the Yi family, I will still love you deeply." Chapter 825. Yun Shao, who was about to leave, heard Shui Roer mention Yun Luofeng's name. He immediately stopped in his tracks and turned his cold gaze towards Shui Roer. When Shui Roer saw him walking towards her, she thought that he had been bewitched by the aphrodisiac. Her heart was filled with joy and her expression became even more gentle. "Young Master Shao, if you are willing to marry me, you will know that I am not inferior to Yun Luofeng. In fact, I am even more outstanding than her." She smiled gently and slowly walked towards Yun Shao. Every time she took a step closer to Yun Shao, her heartbeat would increase by a notch. She stared foolishly at that grim face and the feeling of amazement rose involuntarily once again, causing her to fiercely swallow her saliva. If she became Yun Zhao's wife, how blissful would her life be? "Young Master Shao, my legs are a little weak. Can you help me?" Shui Roer smiled gently and stretched her arm towards Yun Shao. Her body tilted and fell into the man's embrace. Just as her hand was about to land on Yun Zhao's wrist, a swift and fierce sword light suddenly flashed past. In an instant, before she could even touch Yun Zhao's hand, her hand was severed by the blade light. "Ah!" A shrill cry rang through the sky, causing the entire Yi residence to tremble. At the same time, Shui-Roer's body fell heavily to the ground without any support. Fresh blood gushed out from her severed arm and dyed the entire courtyard red. You weren't poisoned by the aphrodisiac. Shui-Roer's eyes widened and her pale lips trembled slightly. How could this be? She had tried the aphrodisiac that woman had given her several times. She had succeeded every time. Why didn't this man fall into her aphrodisiac? Why? Why did this happen? What's going on? Just as Shui-Roer was about to faint, an astonished voice rang out from behind. Then, Yi Jingchen and his wife led a group of people into the courtyard. A group of guards had also surrounded the entire courtyard. Yun Luofeng quickly walked over to Yun Zhao's side. She glanced at Shui-Roer, who was lying in a pool of blood, and immediately understood what had happened. Roer! Yi Qi also saw Shui-Roer and cried out in alarm. She hurried over to her side. Roer, your hand. Why is it like this? Due to excessive blood loss, Shui-Roer's face was pale and her lips trembled as she looked at Yun Zhao. Shui-Roer. Jun Fengling had already regained her senses and walked towards Shui-Roer with a sneer. Didn't I tell you not to take a step out of the woodshed? You are not allowed to appear in the main courtyard. Looks like someone disobeyed my orders and let you out. Yi Jingchen understood what Jun Fengling meant and immediately sent 2 men to bring the 2 guards who were guarding Shui-Roer over. After all, Shui-Roer's appearance here was definitely related to them. Godmother, Roer has already become like this. Shouldn't we treat her first? Yi Qi nervously rubbed the corner of her clothes, and tears almost fell from her eyes. Qi, this has nothing to do. Jun Fengling glanced at Yi Qi. If you want to stay here and see how the world progresses, then shut up. Otherwise, I'll have someone send you away immediately. Yi Qi was stunned and shut up. She had never dared to disobey Jun Fengling's orders. Jun Fengling could not bear to look at them anymore. She turned to Yun Zhao and said, Shower, tell me what happened. I will definitely seek justice for you and Fenger. Chapter 826. Yun Zhao's expression was as cold as ever. He wanted to seduce me. He even claimed that Fenger was not as good as her. Jun Fengling's face darkened completely. She sneered and her lips curled into a sarcastic smile. Fenger is not as good as you. Shui-Roer, aren't you overestimating yourself? Do you think that I, Jun Fengling, will accept anyone? You're wrong. I accept Fenger because she's Yun Luofeng. I won't accept anyone else. When those people reported Yun Zhao's news to Yi Jingchen, they also brought Yun Luofeng along. Hence, Jun Fengling already knew about Yun Luofeng's behavior all these years and admired her even more. Yet, Shui-Roer claimed that Yun Luofeng was not as good as her. What a joke! How could the daughter-in-law that Jun Fengling fancied be inferior to such a pretentious woman? No, it's not like that. Shui-Roer's severed arm throbbed in pain and her body started to twitch. However, in order to defend herself, she forcefully held on. I didn't want to seduce young Master Xiao, it was young Master Xiao. He wanted to molest me. I merely rejected him and he cut off my arm. Jun Fengling was furious. My son wanted to molest you. Who do you think you are? You can't even compare to my daughter-in-law's toes. Would my son give up a beautiful daughter-in-law to molest a disgusting woman like you? Madam Yi. You can't be unreasonable. Shui-Roer's face turned pale and she continued to defend herself. You didn't see anything. How can you prove that I seduced young Master Xiao? She could not admit it no matter what. Otherwise, June Fengling would not let her off. You said that you didn't want to seduce my son. Then what are you doing here? June Fengling sneered. If you really have no intentions, you should stay in the woodshed. Why are you in the main courtyard? Yi Qi, who was initially anxious, was stunned after hearing June Fengling's words. Yes, if Shui Roer really had no intentions, why didn't she stay in the room and wait for the injustice to be cleared? Why did she come to Yun Shao? Yi Qi was confused. All these years, she had trusted Shui Roer deeply. Naturally, she did not dare to believe that it was all a lie. Master, madam, this subordinate has brought him here. At this moment, the people who went to arrest them had already brought the two guards over. When the two of them saw Shui Roer lying in a pool of blood, their legs went soft and they fell to the ground in despair. The thing they were most worried about still happened. Speak. June Fengling frowned and said coldly, Who allowed you to let Shui Roer leave without permission? The two guards immediately came back to their senses and kowtowed fiercely. Madam, this subordinate knows his mistake and is willing to die as an apology. I only ask that Madam spare Miss Shui. Until now, these two guards were still protecting Shui Roer. He was even willing to die in exchange for her life. June Fengling vaguely sensed an unusual aura. She was sure that her two guards didn't know Shui Roer at all. Why were they willing to die for her in such a short span of a day? Something's not right. Yun Luofeng seemed to sense something and raised his eyebrows. I want to examine their bodies. June Fengling looked at Yun Luofeng in confusion. Did you discover something? What's wrong with their bodies? Chapter 827. Yun Luofeng silently walked to the side of the two guards. He frowned slightly when he sensed the smell coming from their bodies. The aphrodisiac was colorless and tasteless to others, but she could still sense it in front of Yun Luofeng. The two of them have been poisoned by the aphrodisiac. Yun Luofeng lifted his head slightly and said indifferently. Boom. When Yun Luofeng mentioned the aphrodisiac, Shui Roer's mind exploded. She knew. How could she know? Shui Roer bit her lips. She thought about how Yun Shao was unaffected by the aphrodisiac and how Yun Luofeng sensed the aphrodisiac so quickly. She suddenly felt that she had been tricked. Aphrodisiac. June Fengling was stunned. She did not know medicine, but she knew about aphrodisiac. She did not expect Shui Roer to bring the aphrodisiac to harm her son. Instantly, June Fengling was enraged. She looked at Yi Qi angrily and said, Look, this is your friend. She can forget about leaving the Yi residence today. Yi Qi's face was pale. She hurriedly looked at Shui Roer, hoping for an explanation. However, there was nothing. Shui Roer widened her eyes in panic and stared at Yun Luofeng. At that moment, her heart turned cold. Could it be that Shui Roer's motive for coming to the Yi residence was for Yun Shao? Feng can you cure the two of them? June Fengling looked at Yun Luofeng again and asked. Yun Luofeng smiled and said, The aphrodisiac is not a serious illness. The two of them were just bewitched. I only need one needle to make them go back to normal. Then, Yun Luofeng took out a needle pouch from his clothes and carefully took out a silver needle. He then inserted it into the guard's Shinting acupuncture point. In no time, the two guards regained their clarity. They looked at each other in dismay, not knowing what had happened. After a long time, the two of them remembered what they had just done and their expressions changed drastically. Sir, madam, please have mercy. I don't know what happened, but when Shui Roer begged me, I couldn't reject her. Please give me another chance. The guard kowtowed fiercely and begged. Although this wasn't your intention, if you hadn't given her a chance, she wouldn't have been able to harm you with her charm. So, you still have to pay the price for your mistakes. June Fengling looked heroic. Men, take the two of them down. Lock them up for 3 months and deduct half a year's salary. The guards understood that June Fengling was being merciful by giving them such a punishment. They hurriedly kowtowed to express their gratitude and followed the other 2 guards down. Since the aphrodisiac had been removed, they didn't even glance at Shuero. Suddenly, a man in black walked up to June Fengling's ear and whispered a few words to her. The smile on June Fengling's lips deepened when she heard the man in black's words. Bring him here. Yes, madam. The man in black accepted the order and retreated. After the man in black left, June Fengling looked at the ashen-faced Shuero, and said, Shuero, I've brought someone to see you. You will definitely be very interested in this person. As soon as he finished speaking, the black-clothed man walked over with a burly man in his hand. He threw the burly man to the ground. Chapter 828. It's you. Yi Qi was stunned, her face full of astonishment. It seems like you know him. June Fengling glanced at Yi Qi, his tone indifferent. Yi Qi nodded slightly. When Ro and I were in the restaurant, this was the man who informed her that her house was on fire. The man in front of her was the one who had gone to inform Shuero of the fire. Yi Qi naturally had an impression of him. At this moment, Yi Qi did not notice that when Shuero saw the man who had been caught, her pale face became even more desperate. You only know that he's the one who went to inform Shuero but you don't know that he's Shuero's uncle. June Fengling laughed coldly. Yi Qi's mind went blank as if she had been struck by lightning. She turned to Shuero blankly. Can you tell me what's going on? What's your relationship with this man? Since this man was Shuero's uncle, why did he have time to inform Shuero but not to save her? Moreover, she did not forget that it was because of this man's words that she had misunderstood fire. Save me. The burly man saw Shuero lying in a pool of blood and said hurriedly, I'm your uncle, you can't just watch me die. Admit that you did everything and it has nothing to do with me. Shuero's body trembled. She bit her lips and did not say a word. Her slightly lowered eyes were filled with despair and a layer of hatred that could not be erased. Madam Yi, please let me go. Seeing that Shuero did not respond, the burly man hurriedly knelt in front of June Fengling. It's Shuero She returned to the Shui family that day and claimed that she could become Madame Ye's daughter-in-law, but she needed our help. That's why I listened to her and reported the fire. I even deliberately said that the one who set the fire was a little girl in red. June Fengling raised his eyebrows. Then do you know who set the fire? I know. The burly man did not dare to hide anything. It's Shuero She set the fire herself and burned her mother to death. The Shui family said that they could accept her, but not her bedridden mother. In order to get rid of this burden, she decided to burn her mother as well. At that time, I could still hear her mother's mournful cries. She screamed Shuero's name, but she didn't know that the one who set the fire was the daughter she was so proud of. After the burly man finished speaking, Yi Qi's body stiffened. She looked at Shuero in disbelief and asked in a hoarse voice, Did you set the fire? It wasn't me. Shuero screamed, It wasn't me. It wasn't me. Shuero said. It's Shuero. You. Shue, the man said. She is. She. Shue, the man said. You told the Shui family that as long as you set the house on fire, Miss Yi Qi would take pity on you and let you live in the Yi residence. As long as you enter the Yi residence, you will be able to seduce young Master Xiao. Yi Qi smiled, but there was a hint of bitterness in her smile. Yi Qi smiled bitterly and said, I was curious why you were so late today. You told me that you were late because you had something to attend to at the last minute. It turns out that you had something to attend to. Chapter 829. Yi Qi was already walking towards Shui-Roer as she spoke. Qi, Shui-Roer looked a little flustered. Don't you trust me? Yi Qi sneered. How could I not trust you? It's because I trust you that my big brother is bitterly disappointed. It's also because I trust you that I've always been used by you. Big brother is right. Even if I'm sold, I'll still count the money for her. At this moment, Yi Qi's tone was filled with despair. She was obviously hurt by her most trusted friend. Shui-Roer, you don't have to explain anymore. If it was my big brother, second brother, or second sister-in-law who went to investigate the truth, I would definitely believe you. However, this time, my adoptive mother has personally sent people there. How could I possibly trust you? Yi Qi said with a cold smile. Besides, I still remember that when I saw you today, you were hanging on a straw. Now that I think about it, that straw is the evidence of your murder. Shui-Roer became dispirited. She knew that no matter how much she tried to explain, it would be useless against her. Suddenly, she started roaring with laughter. Her laughter was desolate, and it was like the wailing of ghosts and the howling of wolves as it reverberated in the wind. Yes. So what if I did it? My fate is so tragic. My father doesn't want me, and I need to rely on my sick mother. Do you know how much effort I've put in to return to the Shui family all these years? As long as I become Yun Zhao's wife, I will be protected by Madame Yi. By then, the Shui family will carry me back in a sedan chair. If it wasn't for fate, how could I have done such a thing? So, Yi Qi, I really envy you. You have no parents, but you were lucky enough to be adopted by the Yi family. Why don't I have the same luck? Up until now, Shui-Roer had pushed all her mistakes to fate. However, she had never reflected on her own actions. Yi Qi closed her eyes slightly. After a long while, she opened her eyes. Foster mother, I've said it before. If Shui-Roer really wronged Fire, no matter if I kill or cut her, I won't say a word for her. Mor, take her back. Jun Fengling sighed. I'll handle the rest. All right. Yi Shima glanced at Yi Qi. Let's go. After what happened today, he understood that Yi Qi would definitely change. She would not be as gullible as she used to be, Qi. Shui-Roer panicked and reached out to grab Yi Qi. Don't go. I know I was wrong. I really was wrong. I don't want to die yet. Please don't leave me behind. In the past, Yi Qi would have stayed behind to plead for Shui-Roer. But now, she followed Yi Shima without hesitation. Jun Fengling smiled. How do you want to deal with her? Yun Luofeng gently stroked his chin. She wants to seduce my man. That means she really likes men. Maybe the brothel will be interested in her. All right. Jun Fengling immediately slapped the table and made a decision. This woman has lost an arm, but her looks are passable. We should be able to sell her for a few dozen taels of silver. Upon hearing that she was going to be sent to the brothel, Shui-Roer hurriedly struggled. Unfortunately, before she could struggle, Yi Jingchen had already exhausted her strength. Someone, sell her to the Drunken Flower brothel. Also, tell the owner of the Drunken Flower brothel to take good care of her. Chapter 830. Yes. Hearing this, a guard immediately stepped forward and carried Shui-Roer over the wall. Shui Rower had recovered from her initial despair. As long as Jun Fengling didn't kill her on the spot, she would have a chance to escape. She might even have a chance to take revenge. Unfortunately, dreams were beautiful, but reality was cruel. Shui Rower ignored the word "take care" in Jun Fengling's words. When she arrived at the drunken flower brothel, she finally understood what a real nightmare was. Those men were like wolves and tigers, each of them trying their best to torture her. In addition, her abilities had been destroyed, so how could she withstand the torment? Not long after, she passed away regretfully under the torment of those men. Since then, Shui Rower no longer existed in this world. When the news of Shui Rower's death reached Yi Qi, she was already crying tears of joy over Jun Fengling's pregnancy. How could she have the time to care about her? That's right. Over the past few months, Jun Fengling had completely recovered under Yun Luofeng's treatment. She was already pregnant. With this good news, Yi Jingchen and his wife naturally doted on Yun Luofeng to the core. They were afraid that he would melt in their mouths and fall in their hands. Yi Qi wasn't as hostile towards Yun Luofeng as she had been in the beginning. Instead, she was grateful that Yun Luofeng had helped Jun Fengling. Moreover, her behavior towards Yun Luofeng was instigated by Shui Rower. Now that she knew Shui Rower's true colors, how could she continue to be hostile towards her? But she had made so many mistakes that she didn't dare to face Yun Luofeng even now. At that moment, in the courtyard of the Yi residence, Yi Qi was about to instruct the kitchen to prepare Jun Fengling's meal when she heard a young girl's voice. Yi Qi, where is mother now? Yi Qi was stunned. She raised her head and looked at the young girl's beautiful and charming face. She asked blankly, "Are you talking to me?" Yun Luofeng frowned. "I'm looking for her." Yi Qi suddenly snapped out of her trance. She had mixed feelings. She's in the living room. The Yi family is here, and she's receiving them. I understand. Yun Luofeng turned and walked towards the living room. Suddenly, a delicate voice sounded out from behind her, causing her to stop in her tracks. "Sorry." Yi Qi lowered her head and said apologetically, "I know you won't forgive me, but I still want to apologize to you. If I hadn't been so stupid back then, I wouldn't have listened to Shui Rower's provocation and done something that you hate." Yun Luofeng's back was facing Yi Qi, and his voice was calm. "Yi Qi, for the sake of my mother, I'll give you a piece of advice. Everyone in this world will harm you, but your family will never. Everyone in this world will harm you, only your family will never." Yi Qi was stunned. She stared blankly at Yun Luofeng's back as he left. She could not come back to her senses for a long time. In the lobby, Yi Jingchen and Jun Fengling sat on the main seats and looked at the middle-aged man coldly. The middle-aged man put down the teacup in his hand and smiled. "Eldest young master, young madam, second young master has convinced the other elders in the clan to allow you to return to the Ya family. As for Kargalik, I will be in charge of it for the time being." Yi Jingchen's face darkened. He snorted coldly. Would that guy be so kind? He had his eyes on the Yi family firm's current strength. Does he want you to replace me? Let me tell you, I will never leave Kargalik. The Yi family firm now possessed items such as the spirit-gathering elixir and had brought great benefits to the firm. How could his greedy brother let go of such a good thing? That was why he had sent someone to replace him. Chapter 831. Eldest young master, second young master is the future head of the Yi family after all. Since he wants you to leave Kargalik, how can you defy him? Actually, this is all your fault. If you hadn't married a hen that can't lay eggs, second young master wouldn't have become the future head of the Yi family. The middle-aged man relied on his power as the Yi family's second young master to look down on Yi Jingchen. In terms of talent and ability, Yi Jingchen was undoubtedly the best. Unfortunately, he had lost because he had married a hen that could not lay eggs. How could the future head of the Yi family not have an heir? Yi Jingchen laughed icily. I'm being chased out of Kargalik so that you can take over the Yi family business. Do you dare say that it wasn't because my younger brother coveted the spirit-gathering medicinal liquid? The middle-aged man smiled. He was not angry. Eldest young master, only you would be so stupid as to sell something like the spirit-gathering medicinal liquid. If I were in charge of the Yi family business, would use all the spirit-gathering medicinal liquid to increase the Yi family's power. Furthermore, I will recruit the person who supplied the spirit-gathering elixir and make him work for me. Ha! Yi Jingchen burst into laughter. His laughter was laced with anger. Do you think that a mysterious and powerful person who could produce something like the spirit-gathering medicinal liquid would willingly work for the Yi family? Eldest young master, the fact that you can't recruit him means that you don't have the ability. The middle-aged man slowly rose and smiled. After all, you've already been chased out of the Yi family. If second young master hadn't been kind enough to allow you to return, you would never have been able to step into the Yi family. However, second young master is different from you. He is the future head of the Yi family. When others hear his name, they can't wait to curry favor with him. Why would they reject him? Yi Jingchen's expression changed abruptly. His gentle eyes burned with anger and his tightly clenched fists trembled uncontrollably. However, at this moment, a languid laughter suddenly rang out from outside the hall. Don't you know that the person who sold the spirit-gathering medicinal liquid was only willing to trade with him because he heard of father and mother's reputation? If it had been someone else, I'm afraid that they wouldn't have been able to obtain the medicinal liquid. Outside the hall, sunlight poured down. The young girl was dressed in white and leaned lazily against the door frame. The corners of her lips curled into a devilish smile as she glanced at the middle-aged man sitting in the hall. A cold light flashed in the depths of her eyes. She had obviously been here for some time. Seeing that Jun Fengling had a guest, she didn't come out to disturb him. But in the end, she couldn't help but speak out. These people made it sound like they were being merciful by summoning Yi Jingchen back to the Yi family, but in reality, they coveted the spirit-gathering liquid in the Yi family's business. But now, he was still acting so pompously. Did he really think that everyone in the world was a fool? Who are you? How dare you? The middle-aged man's face darkened. Who allowed you to appear here? You really have no manners at all. Since the appearance of the middle-aged man, Jun Fengling had been silent. Now that he had seen him teach Yun Luofeng a lesson, his expression immediately darkened. She's my daughter-in-law. You'd better be polite. Daughter-in-law. The middle-aged man frowned slightly and a look of disgust flashed across his eyes. So this is your bastard's wife. At the end of the day, she's just a bastard. Eldest young master, even if you want to marry, you should find a better woman. This kind of woman even gave birth to a bastard. What right does she have to be the young madam of the Yi family? Chapter 832. Jun Fengling was enraged and broke the table into two with a bang. Then, he leaped towards the middle-aged man, his eyes filled with murderous intent. However, a figure was one step ahead of her. In just 2 steps, the figure arrived in front of the middle-aged man and kicked him in the crotch. Under the intense pain, the middle-aged man let out a mournful howl. Bastard. Then I'll make sure you can't even have a bastard now. The young lady's eyes were wild and her lips curled up slightly. Didn't you insult Yun Xiao as a bastard? If that's the case, then I'll make sure he can't even have a bastard. Damned girl, just you wait. The middle-aged man gritted his teeth and glared at Yun Luofeng, then turned towards Yi Jingchen and his wife. Eldest young master, young madam, don't you owe me an explanation? I'm someone sent by second young master after all. Yi Jingchen coughed dryly and said, "What happened just now? Why didn't I see anything? Wife, did you see anything?" Jun Fengling had already retracted his killing intent and was trying to hold back his laughter. "I saw that Yi Ran didn't manage to steady himself and fell. Who knew that he would just happen to straddle a pillar, making his balls hurt?" The middle-aged man who was addressed as Yi Ran almost went mad from anger. This was really a shameless family. They were simply lying with their eyes closed. "Good, very good. I'll report this to eldest young master." The middle-aged man gritted his teeth fiercely. His hand was still on his crotch, and his face was covered in cold sweat from the pain. "Wait." Seeing that the middle-aged man was about to turn and leave, the young lady's lazy shout suddenly rang out, causing him to stop in his tracks. "What else do you want?" The middle-aged man turned around and glared at Yun Luofeng. Yun Luofeng smiled devilishly. "Is the Yi family's rule that a servant is allowed to shout at his master?" The middle-aged man was stunned. All these years, he had been used to acting like a tyrant with second young master. How could he still remember Yi Jingchen's identity? My master is the second young master." Cold sweat broke out on his forehead as he tried to argue his way out of this. "Your surname is Yi." The young lady raised her arrogant brows. "Since your surname is Yi, then you're a dog of the Yi family. But you don't place master in your eyes at all. Then what do you want? Kneel down and apologize." The young lady's words were merciless, causing Yi Ran's body to tremble. "Apologize? Impossible. I only recognize second young master, I don't recognize anyone else." Bang! After Yi Ran said this, the young lady's leg kicked out fiercely, sending his body flying out and crashing fiercely into the wall. He felt pain all over his body, and even a few of his bones were broken. "Apologize." The young lady closed in on Yi Ran, looking down at him coldly with an insolent gaze. "I don't." Before Yi Ran could finish his words, the young lady raised her leg once again and slid down fiercely from the air. She stomped on his chest, causing him to throw up 3 liters of blood, and his countenance turned pale. This time around, Yun Luofeng did not waste his breath on him. He grabbed Yi Ran's shirt and forcefully pressed him onto the ground, making him kneel before Yi Jingchen and his wife. Yi Ran knew that if he did not apologize this time around, he would not be able to leave so easily. He hurriedly kowtowed and said in a terrified voice, "Eldest young master, young madam, it's my fault. I shouldn't have taken advantage of my position to bully you. Please let me off. I'll scram back to the Yi family right away and never dare to offend eldest young master and young madam again." Chapter 833. His kowtow was very loud. In just a short while, his forehead turned red, and blood seeped out from the corner of his forehead. "Remember, you're just a servant. A servant can never be disrespectful to their master. Scram immediately." Yun Luofeng let go of his hand, and his eyes were filled with malice. Since she had accepted Yi Jingchen and his wife, she would never allow anyone to be disrespectful to them. Not even the Yi family. Yi Ran hurriedly stumbled out of the door. Perhaps he was afraid that Yun Luofeng would make him stay if he stayed for even a moment longer. Sigh. Yi Jingchen smiled bitterly as he watched Yi Ran leave. "If my younger brother hears about this, he'll probably hate me even more." Yun Luofeng smiled and asked, "Will he not hate you if you don't do this?" Yi Jingchen suddenly returned to his senses. That's right. Even if he didn't beat Yi Ran up, his younger brother would still hate him. Since that was the case, what did it matter if he attacked Yi Ran or not? At most, it would only deepen his hatred. "Brother Yi," Jun Fengling frowned slightly, "in the past, when I was with you in the Yi family, I could bear with it no matter how much I suffered. But now, I've found my son and daughter-in-law. If the Yi family bullies them, don't blame me for turning against you. Yi Jingchen smiled warmly and raised his arms to protect Jun Fengling. Jun, you've misunderstood. The reason why I was worried before wasn't because I still cared about the Yi family. I was only afraid that my younger brother would hurt you. However, Feng is right. Even if this hadn't happened, he wouldn't have let our family off. If Jun Fengling had not appeared, the position of the head of the Yi family would definitely have belonged to Yi Jingchen. It would not have been his turn. If Jun Fengling had gotten pregnant, the position of the head of the family might have shifted again. How could he not hate Yi Jingchen when there was such a danger? Why would he not want to harm Yi Jingchen's life? Therefore, even if Yun Luofeng had not done such a thing, he would not have let Yi Jingchen off. Jun, don't worry. You're my only family. If the Yi family really wants to hurt you, I'll risk my life to ensure your safety. Yi Jingchen's eyes were filled with determination. Ever since the Yi family chased them out of the clan a few years ago, he had been bitterly disappointed. In this life, the only person he cared about was Jun Fengling. Towards Yun Xiao and Yun Luofeng, it was only out of love for them. Father, mother, Yun Luofeng raised the corners of his lips. Next time, if young Master Yi wants the Yi family firm again, you can ruthlessly extort a sum of money from him and then give the Yi family firm to him. Yi Jingchen was stunned for a moment. He frowned slightly. I'm afraid that's not appropriate. No matter how precious the items I extort are, they can't compare to the spirit-gathering medicinal liquid in the shop. Yun Luofeng raised his brows and smiled. Don't worry. The Yi Clan Trading Company is just an empty shell to him. Moreover, what I said to Yi Ren earlier was not a threat. Once the Yi Clan Trading Company changes hands, there will no longer be any spirit-gathering medicinal liquid. Why? Yi Jingchen was even more surprised. Yi Shima had always been managing the Yi family's business, so he did not know the exact situation. While Yi Jingchen was still confused, Yi Shima's hearty voice came from outside the hole. Godfather, godmother, this matter is very simple. Sister-in-law was the one who provided the spirit-gathering medicinal liquid. Yi Jingchen's heart skipped a beat. The initial shock in his eyes had already turned into shock. His breathing also quickened slightly. Is what your brother said true? You were the one who provided the spirit-gathering medicinal liquid. Chapter 834. Facing the man who was as gentle as jade, Yun Luofeng lightly nodded his head. This is why I said that once the company changes owners, there will be no more spirit-gathering elixirs. Yi Jingchen was dumbfounded. After all this time, the person who sold the elixir was actually Yun Luofeng. The funny thing was that his younger brother wanted to take away the trading company. Compared to Yi Jingchen, Jun Fengling was much calmer. She patted Yun Luofeng on the shoulder and wanted to say something, but it turned into a sigh in the end. My daughter-in-law is truly capable. As a mother-in-law, I have to look at her in a different light every time. However, Feng, I'm proud of you. Jun Fengling was very proud. Indeed, who else in this world could have such a capable daughter-in-law like her? It seemed like his son had good taste, unlike Yi Jingchen's younger brother, Yi Jingxian, who was as proud as a peacock just because his son was favored by the princess. How could that princess compare to his daughter-in-law? Feng, Yi Jingchen smiled bitterly as he stroked Yun Luofeng's hair. You've really given me a fright. However, you must hide the things in your hands well. Don't let anyone else see them. Otherwise, it's inevitable that someone will try to steal them. Yun Luofeng narrowed his eyes slightly and smiled evilly. Since you already know the source of the spirit-gathering liquid, when the time comes, after extorting a sum of money, give the trading company to him. Also, before giving the trading company to him, take away all the valuable medicinal ingredients. Don't leave a single one for him. Yi Jingchen was dumbfounded. He originally thought that his wife was bad enough, but he didn't expect her to be this bad. When that time came, that bastard Yi Jingxian would definitely be in the mood to cry after receiving an empty shell of a business. Brother Yi, Jun Fengling raised her eyebrows and smiled faintly. In the past, I didn't care about your identity in the Yi family, but now that we have a child, I must give the child a bright future, so I want you to go back and take back what belongs to you. Anne. Jun Fengling paused and narrowed her eyes. If Yi Jingxian knew we had a child, he wouldn't let us off so easily. We can only strike first. If you don't want to be the patriarch of the Yi family, wait until you get the power, then transfer it to someone else. I will never allow my child to be in danger. This was the reason why she wanted to go back and seize power. Anyone could be the head of the Yi family, but not Yi Jingxian. Otherwise, with his sinister character, he would definitely make sure that their family would never have a day of peace. All right. Yi Jingchen nodded slightly. I'll listen to you. For the sake of our child, I'll take back the Yi family's power. Jun Fengling smiled, her hand caressing her stomach, her face glowing brightly. That was the radiance of motherhood. Looking at the blissful smile on Jun Fengling's face, Yun Luofeng secretly made up her mind. No matter what, she would help Yi Jingchen and his wife resolve this potential trouble. No one knew when Yi Qi had appeared outside the hall, but she had heard everything Yi Jingchen and his wife had said. When she remembered that the spirit-gathering elixir was taken out by Yun Luofeng, her face flushed with shame. No wonder Big Brother was unwilling to take out the spirit-gathering elixir that day. It was all because of Yun Luofeng. If it were him, he wouldn't give the medicinal liquid to someone who was going against him either. Yi Qi bit her lips tightly. Through these days of reflection, she had understood many problems. Just like what Yun Luofeng had said to her. In this life, the people who would harm her would never be her family. Chapter 835. If she had listened to Big Brother back then, there wouldn't have been so many problems. She wouldn't have been deceived by one person for so long. At this thought, Yi Qi glanced at the happy family in the hall again. Then, she turned around and slowly left the courtyard. Yun Luofeng seemed to sense something. He turned around slowly and stared at Yi Qi's receding figure. Humans were strange. If they didn't suffer a setback, they would never reflect on themselves. If it wasn't for Shui Ro-er's incident, Yi Qi would still be a willful little girl. She didn't even know where she had gone wrong. At the Ye residence. In the depths of the forest, a tightly shut door slowly opened. Not long after, an old man in a green robe slowly walked out. When they saw him, everyone waiting outside the door knelt on the ground and said respectfully, "Congratulations on coming out of seclusion, Master." The old man nodded slightly. His gaze swept across the room and stopped on the man in front of him. "Xian, did anything happen while I was in seclusion?" "Father," Yi Jingxian said timidly, "ever since you went into seclusion, the elders in the family unanimously decided to banish Big Brother to Kargalik. Banishment meant that he would be expelled from the Ya family. Of course, Yi Jingxian wanted to push all the blame onto Yi Jingchen, but he knew that no matter how many lies he told, they would see through him. He might as well tell the truth. Fortunately, the old man only frowned and didn't blame Yi Jingxian. He only sighed helplessly. It's good that they left. At least it's better to stay in Kargalik than in the Ya family. If Jun Fengling hadn't been infertile, he wouldn't have passed the position of young master of the Ya family to Yi Jingxian. After all, as the head of the Ya family, how could he not have a son or daughter? But in reality, compared to his second son, he preferred the mature and steady Yi Jingchen. This was also the reason why Yi Jingxian hated Yi Jingchen. Yi Jingxian lowered his eyes. His previous submissive expression was gone, replaced by a flash of ruthlessness. Would leaving the Ya family give Big Brother a peaceful life? No. He would never let him off. As long as Big Brother was still alive, he could not be at ease as the young master of the Yi family. Father, Yi Jingxian lifted his head and continued, there's one more thing I need to report to you. One, is currently on good terms with the princess of the royal family, and His Majesty has also agreed to this marriage. Once you come out of seclusion, they will arrange a date for the marriage. The princess of the imperial family, Jiang Mengyao, was the #1 beauty in the imperial city. Her beauty was unparalleled, her talent was extraordinary, and even her medical skills were outstanding. It was no wonder that Yi Jingxian was so proud to have such a perfect daughter-in-law. Oh. Sure enough, after hearing this, the old man's heart was moved. Not bad, this is very good. Obtaining the favor of the royal family is more important to the development of our Yi clan. Yi Jingxian was delighted. As long as he was on the same boat as the royal family, no matter how strong Yi Jingxian was, he wouldn't be able to seize power from him. Xianer, did anyone go to the back of the mountain while I was in seclusion? The old man frowned slightly and asked in a calm manner. Yi Jingxian said respectfully, Father, don't worry. The back mountain is the Yi family's forbidden area. No one has the guts to go there. Is that so? Then I'd like to go to the back mountain to take a look. The old man felt a little uneasy, so after saying this, he walked to the back mountain without any hesitation. Chapter 836. However, before he could approach the back mountain, he realized that the aura that had been lingering around the back mountain all year round had disappeared. Instantly, his expression changed and he slapped the back of Yi Jingxian's head. Xian, how dare you lie to me? Even now, you still dare to say that no one has entered the back mountain. Yi Jingxian was stunned by the slap and stared blankly at the old man. Father, I really don't know what happened. Besides, isn't the back mountain a forbidden area? Who would have the guts to enter? The old man raised his hand angrily again, but in the end, he put it down helplessly. His elderly face was filled with anger. Do you know why the back mountain is called a forbidden area? Yi Jingxian shook his head. The Yi family's back mountain was where the Yi family's secret was. Even as the young master of the Yi family, he did not know much about the back mountain. The reason why the back mountain is called a forbidden area is because there is a person living there. No. You shouldn't call her a person. According to my father, your grandfather, there is a very powerful fox living in the back mountain. Fox? Yi Jingxian was completely dumbfounded. How could he not know that the Yi family had such a powerful spiritual beast? The old man took a deep breath and continued, that fox is the master of the Yi family's ancestor. Furthermore, the Yi family has a rule that all the Yi family's descendants must respect this fox and obey her orders. I've never seen this fox, but I can sense the powerful aura in the back mountain. Now that the back mountain is peaceful, do you still dare to say that the fox is still there? Yi Jingxian rubbed the back of his head. Did she leave on her own? No. That fox would never leave the back mountain so casually. Someone must have come and taken her away. The old man said resentfully. When I was in seclusion, I told you to look after the back mountain. What have you been doing all these years? You didn't even know that such a big thing had happened. Yi Jingxian felt very sullen. You can sense the aura in the back mountain, but I don't know. Furthermore, I really didn't see anyone come and take the fox away. Send someone to look for her immediately. Search to the ends of the earth and find her. The old man's eyes darkened as he ordered sternly. Yi Jingxian hesitated for a moment. Father, you've never seen that fox. How can I find her? I don't care that much. You didn't look after her well, so you will be responsible for this matter. As for that fox, I can give you a piece of information. She is a female fox and only has 8 tails. Of course, this information was passed down from his ancestors, and he only knew these 2 points. Father, it's like looking for a needle in a haystack for me. Yi Jingxian sighed and said helplessly. The old man glanced at him coldly. These 2 pieces of information are enough. Also, after you find her, you cannot be rude to her. You must treat her with respect. If she is unwilling to come back, send someone to protect her. Yi Jingxian really couldn't understand his father's actions. From his point of view, wouldn't it be fine if he could just find the fox and capture her? The old man seemed to have seen through Yi Jingxuan's thoughts. He sighed and said, the purpose of our Yi family's existence is to protect this fox. In other words, we are the fox's servants. Have you ever seen a servant use force against their master? Yi Jingxian stood rooted to the ground in shock. This piece of information was far beyond his understanding. The Yi family had existed for so many years just to protect a spiritual beast. The Yi family that he had always been so proud of was actually the spiritual beast's servant. Chapter 837. The old man smiled bitterly as he looked at Yi Jingxuan's devastated expression. Wasn't he the same when his father told him about this back then? However, he couldn't go against the clan's rules. He could only accept this fact. Father, I understand. Yi Jingxian came back to his senses and said, I'll send someone to look for that fox. The old man nodded in satisfaction. I didn't manage to break through during my closed-door cultivation this time. I'll have to continue in a few days. Although you and Qin don't share the same mother, you're still brothers. I hope that you two will respect and love each other. Do you understand? Yi Jingxuan's expression suddenly changed. He smiled ingratiatingly and said, Father, don't worry. I've always respected Big Brother. Why would I have a conflict with him? I'm the kind of person who would give up even a piece of cake to Big Brother. If possible, I'd like to give him the position of young master of the Yi family. Unfortunately, Big Brother doesn't have a son or daughter. The elders in the family don't approve of my actions at all. It seemed that this old man had guessed what he had been doing during this period of time. That was why he had specially warned him. However, he had no choice. In order to become the head of the Yi family, he had to coax this old man. The old man glanced at Yi Jingxian. If you really think that way, I'm relieved. I'll choose a good day for Princess Mengyao and when later. After this, I'll continue my closed-door cultivation. I won't come out until I break through this time. Yes, father. Yi Jingxian lowered his head and the corners of his lips curled into a cold smile. As long as this old man went into closed-door cultivation, the entire Yi family would be his again. Although there were some disagreements among the elders of the Yi family, it didn't matter. In the end, everything was still up to him. Kargalik. Inside the Yi residence. After Jun Fengling had given some simple instructions, he sent people to pack their luggage. Soon, the servants of the Yi residence had prepared their luggage. Even the horses that the Yi residents had reared were brought over. Of course, Yun Luofeng and Yun Xiao rode on the same horse. Yi Jingchen and his wife also rode on the same horse. Only Yi Shima and Yi Qi traveled alone. Looking at the couples, Yi Shima was a little sad. In the past, I was fed dog food by my adoptive parents every day. Now, I have a younger brother and sister-in-law. It seems that it's time for me to consider my marriage. Although Yi Shima had a lot of women around him, he only maintained a friendly relationship with those women and had no intention of taking things further. The way he saw it, the life he wanted was for his adoptive parents to be so loving. Before he found the person he loved, he would rather remain single. Yi Qi's gaze followed Yi Shima's. After hearing what he said, she felt a pang in her heart and lowered her eyes. She understood that her big brother would never choose her in this lifetime. In this way, she did not know how to face her sister-in-law in the future. Fortunately, her big brother had been single all these years, so she had never thought about this. Now that she thought about her future life, her heart clenched fiercely. Even the hand that held the horsewhip involuntarily tightened. Everything is ready. Let's go. June Fengling hugged Yi Jingchen's waist tightly and leaned her head on his back. A determined look flashed across her eyes. This time, I won't give in no matter what. Whether it was for the unborn child in her belly or for Yun Xiao and Yun Luofeng. She would never let anyone bully her. Chapter 838. Heavenly Cloud Nation. Outside the city gate, 2 guards stood motionless on the city wall, while the other one was checking the seals of the people who came and went. This seal represented the identity of the people in Heavenly Cloud Nation, so as to prevent enemies from sneaking in. Yi Jingchen pulled the reins of the horse and stopped at the city gate. The guards obviously knew Yi Jingchen, so they were stunned when they saw him appear. This young Master Yi, the young master of the Yi family, has ordered that without his permission, young Master Yi is not allowed to enter the city. The Yi family was the #1 family in Heavenly Cloud Nation, so Yi Jingshuan's words naturally had an effect on the soldiers guarding the city. Therefore, without Yi Jingshuan's permission, they really did not dare to let Yi Jingchen enter the city. Yi Jingchen's eyebrows gradually sank, and he said coldly, I am a member of the Yi family. You refused to let me in. Did you ask for the opinion of the Yi family's master? The guard sneered, young Master Yi, who in the entire Heavenly Cloud Nation does not know that you have been expelled from the Yi family. Therefore, you are no longer a member of the Yi family, so of course we have the right to refuse you entry. Yi Jingchen slightly narrowed his eyes and sneered, this is only the decision of the Yi family's elders, not my father's order. As long as he does not expel me from the Yi family, I am still a member of the Yi family. The guard's face was obviously not very good, and just as he was about to ridicule Yi Jingxian, the sound of horse hooves came from a distance, coming from the road not far away. Suddenly, everyone's eyes looked in the direction of the sound. The horse's hooves flew, and dust filled the sky. On the horse, a beautiful woman with a whip was riding. Her beauty was not the kind of soft beauty, but the kind of elegant style of a general. She was wearing a purple dress, and when she reached the city gate, she hurriedly pulled the reins and stopped. At the same time, the guards behind the woman also stopped in their tracks. They were like empty tie, protecting the woman from behind. After seeing the woman in the purple dress, Yi Jingchen's breath suddenly tightened, and he tightly held the reins in his hands. The #1 beauty of Heavenly Cloud Nation, Jiang Mengyao. She was also the #1 genius of the entire imperial city, the goal of all the young talents. But now, the #1 beauty had chosen Yi Tianwen of the Yi family, which became something that Yi Jingxian could brag about. Yi Jingchen, I didn't think you would dare to come back to the imperial city. Jiang Mingyao's lips curved into a smile as she stared coldly at Yi Jingchen and his wife. Back then, you gave up on my imperial aunt and chose to be with this woman. Have you ever regretted it? In the face of Jiang Mingyao's question, Yi Jingchen only sneered, his voice firm. To me, June is the wife that I will spend the rest of my life with. No one else can be compared to her. So what if he was the son-in-law of the Heavenly Cloud Nation? He did not care for this position. In this life, the only person who could move his heart was June. That was all. Good, I hope you still have the courage to say such words in the future. Jiang Mengyao smiled coldly and turned to the guards, since they're back in the Imperial City, let them in. I want to see what kind of storm they can cause in the Imperial City. Hiya. After saying this, Jiang Mengyao waved the whip in her hand. Before she left, she threw out a sentence of disdain. Yi Jingchen, Jun Fengling, you should thank me. Without me, you wouldn't even have the right to enter the Imperial City. Chapter 839. Jiang Mengyao did not even look at Yun Luofeng and the rest. It was as if they were not worthy of her attention. Yi Jingchen clenched his fists tightly. It was the first time he felt so powerless. Brother Yi, Jun Fengling raised her eyebrows. It's just a few words. How many times have I been mocked over the years? I don't care about what the world thinks. I'm not afraid as long as I can be with you. Her words made Yi Jingchen's heart ache even more. He made up his mind. No matter what, he had to take back the power that belonged to him. He would not let anyone bully his wife. Pfft. Yi Qi spat on the ground. She was so angry that her pretty face was red. A bunch of snobs. Jiang Mengyao and Yi Tianwen are really a perfect match. In the past, Yi Shimo would have reprimanded Yi Qi. However, he did not say anything today. It was obvious that what Yi Qi said was what he wanted to say too. Let's go. Yi Shimo calmed himself down. His eyes were cold. When I return to the Yi family, I will make those who bullied us pay the price. With Jiang Mingyao's words, the guards did not stop Yi Jingchen and let him pass through the gate smoothly, the Yi family. In the hall, Yi Jingxian slammed the table and stood up. The veins on his forehead were throbbing. That bastard Yi Jingchen is back at the Yi family. Not only did he not come when I sent someone to invite him, he even injured my people. Now he's back. What does he want? The more Yi Jingxian thought about it, the angrier he got. If he had not been so worried, he would have sent someone to get rid of Yi Jingchen. Father. Yi Tianwen glanced at Yi Jingxian. A fierce look flashed across his handsome face. I heard that Jun Fingling's long-lost son came back with them. Humph. Yi Jingxian snorted. He's just a bastard. Yi Jingchen is really a green-haired tortoise. He married a slut and brought up a bastard. Such a person doesn't deserve to be a disciple of the Yi family. What a disgrace. On this mainland, men could have concubines and 2 wives, but women could not. As a woman, she had to be faithful to one man. Even if she separated, she could only live a bitter and lonely life. I really don't know what eldest uncle is thinking. Back then, the imperial princess wanted to marry him, but not only did he reject her, he even married a whore. You don't even want the chance to be the emperor's son-in-law. Are you stupid? Yi Tianwen could not understand why he would give up such a good opportunity. Wouldn't he be benefiting an outsider? Moreover, the eldest princess hadn't married for so many years, wasn't she waiting for him? Yi Jingxian laughed mockingly. If he really became the emperor's son-in-law, I wouldn't have anything to do with it today. Yi Jingchen was too stupid. He could have been the emperor's son-in-law, but he insisted on messing around. Father, I heard that the bastard already has a fiancée. His fiancée is a stunning beauty, even more so than Princess Mengyao. Yi Tianwen's brows slightly sunk. He was just a bastard, yet a beauty threw herself into his arms. Was that beauty blind? So what if she's beautiful? Yi Jingxian was very unhappy with Yi Tianwen's words. He frowned. Even if she's beautiful, her status and talent are inferior to Princess Mengyao. You can't be interested in this kind of woman. You are the only child of our Yi family. Only Princess Mengyao is worthy of you. Chapter 840. Yi Tianwen waved his fan and raised it slightly. Father, don't worry. I'm not a lustful person. I know what I want. I'm just amazed that there are people who like such a useless bastard. After all, I've heard that the bastard was chased out of the family because he couldn't cultivate. How could a bastard who couldn't cultivate be worthy of a beauty? Only a woman with a rough appearance could match him. Yi Jingxian nodded in satisfaction. The Yi family scouts have reported that Princess Mengyao has returned. Go find her later. Also, I heard that the Empress is sick. Princess Mengyao left the imperial city to find herbs for the Empress' illness. Our Yi family has 1,000-year blood ginseng. Take it to Princess Mengyao. Yes, father. Yi Tianwen bowed his head and replied respectfully. Not long after Yi Tianwen left, there was a commotion outside the door. Yi Jingchen's low voice could be heard faintly. Yi Jingshuan's face darkened. The smile on his lips was terrifying. Without any hesitation, he walked out of the hole. In the courtyard, Yi Jingchen's eyes were filled with anger. He stared coldly at the man who had walked out of the hall and said coldly, Yi Jingxian, what do you mean by this? Are you trying to shut me out? Don't forget, I'm your big brother. A few years ago, he had swallowed his anger and left the Yi family in order to seek peace. This time, he would not give up what belonged to him so easily. What belonged to him, he would take it back. Yi Jingxian smiled sinisterly. Big brother, are you misunderstanding me? I didn't reject you at the door. Don't forget, a few years ago, you said that you would never step into the Yi family ever again. The guards of the Yi family are only fulfilling your promise. What he meant was that the one shutting Yi Jingchen out was not him, but Yi Jingchen himself. Yi Jingchen said coldly, don't you know the reason why I left the Yi family? If you hadn't bullied June, I wouldn't have left. Big brother, if you and sister-in-law want to come back, of course I have no problem, but... Yi Jingxian glanced at Yun Luofeng and Yun Shao, who were standing beside Jun Fengling, and his lips curled into a sinister smile. These two people are not from the Yi family, they have no right to enter the Yi family. Yun Luofeng's lips curved into a faint smile. Her smile was lazy and evil, but her black eyes were clear. Yi Jingchen is my father-in-law and Jun Fengling is my mother-in-law. Why can't Yun Shao and I enter the Yi family? Yi Jingxian laughed coldly. Who doesn't know that this bastard is Jun Fengling's child? Our Yi clan will not accept this bastard. You should scram, fire. Yun Luofeng's eyes darkened as he shouted. In an instant, a little girl dressed in red appeared out of nowhere. Her figure was as fast as lightning, and in an instant, she was in front of Yi Jingxian. With a loud smack, she slapped him hard across the face. Yi Jingxian was stunned. This little girl was too fast, so fast that he couldn't react in time. When he finally regained his senses, his eyes were filled with rage. How dare you? How dare you lay a hand on me? Yi Jingchen, as the young master of the Yi family, I order you to take these two girls down. Yi Jingchen smiled coldly and didn't move an inch. Good, very good. A cold light flashed in Yi Jingshuan's eyes as he ordered sternly, men, take down these traitors of the Yi family. Chapter 841. Yun Luofeng had merely allowed fire to slap him, but in his mouth, it had become Yi Jingchen's betrayal of the Yi family. The guards looked at each other in dismay, but no one dared to make a move. Even if Yi Jingchen had been expelled from the Yi family, he was still the young master of the Yi family. How could they dare to offend him? Make a move on him? Seeing that the guards were standing still, Yi Jingxian became even more furious. At this moment, Yun Luofeng's languid voice rang out. So what if I hit you? She raised the corner of her lips. You slandered the son of the Yi family. Don't you deserve to be hit? Yi Jingxian was stunned. What do you mean by that? What I mean is very simple. Yun Xiao is Yi Jingqian's biological son. Boom! Like a bolt from the blue, Yi Jingxian was stunned. Yi Jingqian and Jun Fengling were also stunned. No one knew better than them who Yun Xiao's father was. After all, Jun Fengling had only met Yi Jingqian after leaving the Xiao family. How could Yun Xiao be his son? Jun Fengling was a little anxious. He kept giving Yun Luofeng looks, trying to stop her from speaking. From beginning to end, only Yun Xiao was the calmest. To him, no matter what Yun Luofeng wanted to do, she had her reasons. All he could do was believe her unconditionally. Impossible, this is impossible. Yi Jingxian took 2 steps back. How could this bastard be my brother's son? He clearly came from the Roaring Dragon continent. Yun Luofeng slowly took 2 steps closer to Yi Jingxian. How do you know that Yun Xiao wasn't born from father and mother in the Roaring Dragon continent? Moreover, it's very simple to verify what I said. A drop of blood is enough. Yi Jingxuan's eyes flashed fiercely. He really didn't expect his brother to have a son outside. Could it be that he was afraid that he would hurt their son, so he hid it for so many years? Obviously, Yi Jingxian already believed Yun Luofeng's words. After all, she had even said a drop of blood to identify the kinship. How could it be false? Jun Fengling's expression became even more anxious. Once the blood test was done, it would be enough to prove that Yun Xiao wasn't Brother Ye's son. At that time, it would be very difficult to clean up the mess. Just as her heart was filled with anxiety, a voice suddenly sounded in her mind, exploding with a loud bang. Don't worry, I will take back what belongs to you. Jun Fengling raised her head in surprise. At that moment, she met a pair of eyes that seemed to be smiling. That pair of eyes was so bright that it miraculously calmed her anxious heart down. Soul transmission. She could actually use soul transmission. Just how many things did this daughter-in-law of hers not know? I'll go discuss with the elders and choose a date to carry out the blood test. Yi Jingxian glanced coldly at Yun Luofeng. If it turns out that this bastard isn't my eldest brother's son, I'll show you. With that, Yi Jingxian waved his hand and led a group of guards out of the courtyard, hurrying in the direction of the Elder Council. Only Yun Luofeng and the others were left in the courtyard. However, she was still a bit worried, so she set up a barrier around the courtyard, making it impossible for others to hear what was going on inside. Father, Mother, I know you have many things to ask me. You can ask them now. Yun Luofeng shrugged. Besides, no one will hear what you ask here. Yi Jingqian and Jun Fengling looked at each other and laughed bitterly. Although you've made us stay in the Yi family, what about the blood test? Chapter 842. Yun Luofeng smiled. Don't forget, I'm a doctor. If I want your blood to fuse, they'll definitely be able to fuse. A blood test won't be a problem. Jun Fengling was silent for a moment, then asked, are you doing this to protect my unborn child? This girl was smart, how could she not guess that he wanted to reveal the news of her pregnancy? Yi Jingxian and his gang would not let her off easily. Yes. Yun Luofeng did not deny it. You don't have to do this. Jun Fengling laughed bitterly. You and Xiao are very important to me, how can I let you take the risk? How can I be at ease if you do this? Yun Luofeng's fingers gently brushed Jun Fengling's hair, the corners of his lips curled into a smile. The Yi family will be a gift from me to my unborn brother and sister. Brother and sister. Yi Jingchen and Jun Fengling looked at each other and saw joy in each other's eyes. Are you saying that your mother is pregnant with a boy and a girl? Yi Jingchen was so excited that he almost hugged Jun Fengling and kissed her. That's right. Yun Luofeng curled his lips. Mother, you're pregnant, so you must keep your body and mind happy. You don't have to worry about me and Yun Xiao. As long as that holy spirit from the Yi family doesn't make a move, we won't be in any danger. In fact, Yun Luofeng did not know what realm Yun Xiao's current strength was, nor was he sure if he could stand against that holy spirit. However, other than that holy spirit, the rest of the Yi family was no match for Yun Xiao. Although Jun Fengling's strength was not bad, she was pregnant now, so her strength would definitely be slightly weakened. If news of her pregnancy were to spread now, those people would definitely attack her while she was unprepared. If that was the case, she might as well let them attract the hatred. Jun Fengling sighed. Having such a daughter-in-law in this life, what regrets did she have? Jun, take good care of your pregnancy. I'll protect Xiao, and Feng, A cold glint flashed across Yi Jingchen's eyes. If anyone dares to hurt them, I'll protect them even if it means falling out with the Yi family. Jun Fengling raised her eyebrows lightly and said with a faint smile, I haven't returned to the Yi family for many years. This time, I'll definitely be looked down upon by those people again. However, I won't swallow my anger like before. This time, whoever dares to bully or humiliate me, I will return it 100-fold. At that moment, a silhouette rushed over. When Yun Luofeng saw the silhouette, he removed the barrier and walked to Jun Fengling's side. Young master, the servant hurriedly reported, the elders want you to go over. Yi Jingchen frowned. All right, I'll be right there. After saying that, he turned to face Jun Fengling with a gentle gaze. Jun, I'll be right back. If anyone from the Yi family bullies you, don't hold back. Fight them back. Remember, no matter what, I'll be on your side. Jun Fengling nodded slightly. She instinctively wanted to touch her stomach, but she quickly put her hand down when she remembered that there were people from the Yi family around. All right, I'll wait for you. Yi Jingchen caressed her head gently and turned around. Lead the way. Young master, please follow me. The servant gestured for him to follow and led the way. Even though the servant's words were very polite, the disdain between his eyebrows was still revealed. Chapter 843. In the elders' room. All the elders sat around a long table. Sitting at the head of the table was Yi Xiang, the most talented person in the family. Even Yi Jingxian, as the future head of the Yi family, had to listen to his advice sometimes. As the door opened, everyone in the room looked out in unison. When they saw the man who had appeared outside, all the elders' eyes were filled with complicated emotions. Come in. Elder Yi Xiang said in a low voice. Yi Jingchen entered slowly under the elder's gaze. His steps were steady, his breathing steady, and he wasn't in a hurry. Just this alone made him incomparable to Yi Jingxian. You're back. Yi Xiang asked indifferently as he watched Yi Jingchen walk into the elder's office. Yes, I'm back. He's back. And this time, he wouldn't back down. I heard that you have a son outside. Yi Xiang asked directly, without a word of nonsense. Yi Jingchen smiled. That's right, he's my son. It's my fault for letting him wander outside all these years. He's already returned to the Yi family with me. If you don't believe me, you can do a blood test. I have no objections. Since that's the case, let's choose a date for the blood test. Let's do it 3 days from now. Plus, today's matter is too important. I'll inform the head of the family who's in seclusion. Yi Xiang said indifferently. Compared to Yi Jingxian, he was more optimistic about Yi Jingchen. Unfortunately, Yi Jingchen was too powerful, but he didn't have any children, so he couldn't inherit the Yi family. Although he had a son now, he heard that his son was a good-for-nothing. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been expelled from the Shao family where Jun Fengling lived. What a pity, Yi Xiang felt that it was a pity. If his son had been so talented, he would have made Yi Jingchen the young master of the Yi family no matter what. Elders, Yi Jingshuan's eyes flickered. He stood up and chuckled. Now that my brother is back, there's no one to manage the business in Kargalik. Why don't I send someone over? Yi Xiang frowned. Kargalik belongs to your brother. It's not appropriate for you to do this. Elders, Yi Jingxian said with a fake smile. Kargalik is such a remote place. How can someone as noble as my brother stay there? I'll send someone to replace Big Brother. Yi Jingchen glanced at Yi Jingxian mockingly. It seemed that it was just as Fenger had said. His younger brother wouldn't give up on the business. Not only that, before he left, he had already cleared out all the medicinal ingredients in the business and brought back a few of his trusted aides. What was left for him was just an empty shell. Second young master, don't forget that you were the one who suggested transferring eldest young master to Kargalik. Why didn't you think that Kargalik was a remote place? Among the elders present, an elder dressed in green couldn't stand it anymore and retorted, now, young master has developed Kargalik to such a prosperous state and you want to take it back. Yi Jingxian looked displeased as he glanced at the green-robed elder who had spoken. I just want him to go there and reflect on himself. Maybe he will realize his mistake and leave sister-in-law. Who knew that he would be so stubborn? Now I also feel sorry for him, so I let him come back to Yi family. Hearing this, the other elders who were usually in cahoots with Yi Jingxian also spoke up. Second young master is right. No matter what he does, it's for the sake of eldest young master. On the contrary, eldest young master bites Lu Dongbin like a dog and doesn't know what's good for him. He's been bewitched by a vixen and doesn't hesitate to go against his own brother. Chapter 844. Who knows if that bastard is really eldest young master's son? Maybe that vixen is deceiving eldest young master. To think that second young master still calls her sister-in-law. In my opinion, she's not worthy of entering the family. Eldest young master, you should really reflect on yourself. Where else can you find a good brother like second young master? Second young master has always been considerate of you and even offered to return the position of young master to you several times. But what did you do? You're too heartless. The elders spoke one after another, causing Yi Jingchen to clench his fists tightly. First, since I'm the young master of the Yi family, you must treat me with respect. Jun is my wife. Who allowed you to be so rude? Yi Jingchen's eyes were cold, no longer as gentle as before. Second, whether Shao is my son or not will be revealed in 3 days. Are you afraid of something by slandering him like this? The elders who had ridiculed Yi Jingxian were stunned. They had initially thought that Yi Jingxian was destined to be the young master, so they had done many things to hurt Yi Jingchen all these years with him. Now that Yi Jingchen had a son, they were indeed afraid. It was precisely because of this fear that they spoke without thinking. You want Kargalik's business? Yi Jingchen turned to Yi Jingxian and said coldly, I can give it to you, but only if you exchange it with 3,000-year-old herbs. Moreover, these herbs are not allowed to be taken from the Yi family. Yi Jingxian looked up blankly. How did this guy know that he was secretly hiding 3,000-year-old herbs? He had painstakingly obtained these herbs, and there were only 3 of them in total. One must know that once a herb was 500 years old, it would be priceless. Big brother, I'm doing this for you, yet you're asking for an exorbitant price, asking for 3,000-year-old herbs in one go. Yi Jingxian sneered. It's fine if you don't give it to me, but don't even think about getting it from the Yi family's business. Yi Jingchen shrugged nonchalantly. Yi Jingshuan's face darkened. He knew that elder Yi Xiang had always felt guilty for kicking Yi Jingchen out of the Yi family. If he did not do as Yi Jingchen wished, he would not be able to get the business from him. Yi Jingxian gritted his teeth and said, "All right, I'll give it to you." Once he obtained the spirit-gathering elixir and nurtured the Yi family's power, no one would dare to defy his position as the Yi family's young master. I'll let you be happy for now. There will be plenty of opportunities for you to cry in the future. Is there anything else? If there's nothing else, I'll take my leave first. My wife and son are waiting for me. Yi Jingchen glanced coldly at the elders. He only smiled at the green-robed elder who had spoken up for him earlier. You can leave first, Yi Xiang waved his hand. In addition, because we can't be sure that the child is your son, in order to avoid becoming a laughingstock in the end, no one can tell anyone about this before the blood test. For a family like the Yi clan, they placed a lot of emphasis on bloodlines. If the blood test failed, it would definitely become a laughingstock. They couldn't afford to lose face like this. Yi Jingchen smiled mockingly, turned around and walked out of the room without a word. After leaving the elder's room, his cold expression melted and Jun Fengling's figure appeared in his mind. The corners of his lips curled into a smile as he quickly walked towards the courtyard. In this life, only Jun Fengling was his only source of warmth. Even if he had to betray the world, he would never betray her. Chapter 845. From afar, Yi Jingchen could see a few people standing in the courtyard. His expression was filled with gentleness as he quickly walked up to them. Jun-He, you've been waiting for a long time, haven't you? I'll get someone to clean up our previous room later. As for Feng and Xiao, arrange them next to us so that I can protect them. All right. Jun Fengling raised her eyebrows and smiled. She turned to look at Yun Luofeng and the others. If you're tired, go back to your rooms and rest. If you're not tired, let Mo, and Chi-Chi take you around the imperial city. Hearing this, Yi Shima laughed heartily. Godfather, godmother, don't worry. Leave second brother and sister-in-law to me. Jun Fengling was naturally at ease with Yi Shima. With them bringing Yun Luofeng and Yun Xiao around the imperial city, there would basically be no problems. Brother Yi, I'm tired. Let's go back and rest. Jun Fengling rubbed her forehead. Ever since she became pregnant, she had become more sleepy and lazy in everything she did. Yi Jingchen smiled and rubbed Jun Fengling's waist. After giving Yi Shima a few more instructions, he walked towards the backyard. Yi Shima retracted his gaze and laughed. Let's go. Let me show you around and familiarize you with the imperial city. Yun Luofeng nodded lightly and did not refuse. All right. As for Yun Xiao, as long as Yun Luofeng nodded, he would not have any objections. Yi Qi bit her lips as she watched them leave. Her eyes were filled with loneliness. Even though she wanted to follow them, she could not bring herself to do so in the end. The royal restaurant was the most luxurious restaurant in the imperial city. The dishes inside were also extremely famous. Hence, it had become a gathering place for countless luxurious people in the imperial city. However, this restaurant required reservations. Otherwise, they would not be able to enter. Therefore, Yi Shima entered the restaurant in advance to discuss with the owner of the restaurant if he could give them a seat. At this moment, Yun Luofeng stepped into the restaurant not long after Yi Shima left. However, as Fire was only focused on talking to Yun Luofeng, he did not notice the figure walking out of the restaurant in front of him and accidentally bumped into him. Originally, this collision would not have been a hindrance, but after colliding with the fire, the old man seemed to be unable to withstand the heavy blow and fell to the ground, losing consciousness. Fire was stunned. She rubbed her head and said, "What is it? Is this old man trying to blackmail us?" Gu Shijiu had heard of the word porcelain racketeering from Little Mo. It was said that there were many people who used porcelain racketeering in the world that Little Mo had been to. In an instant, everyone in the restaurant turned to look at the people who had appeared at the door. "How dare you!" The two guards behind the old man reacted. They anxiously pulled out their swords and pointed at Fire, saying expressionlessly, "I suspect that you want to harm our lord. So, all of you, come with me immediately." Fire curled his lips. "You really want to scam me? You're already so old, don't you have any shame? Old man, stop pretending to be asleep, hurry up and wake up." She placed her hands on her hips and looked down at the unconscious old man. Her tone was filled with disdain. "Impudent." The guard's expression changed as he shouted harshly. He didn't know what it meant to be a scam, but it couldn't be anything good. At this moment, the people in the restaurant were also discussing, looking at Fire with eyes full of disapproval. Chapter 846. Little girl, it's your fault that you knocked this old man unconscious. Now that you're not apologizing, you're even spouting nonsense. Is this your upbringing? Fire's small face flushed red with anger. Just as she was about to get angry, Yun Luofeng suddenly extended his hand and grabbed her, the corner of his mouth curling up into a lazy smile. "Do you believe that I can wake him up immediately?" The guard coldly snorted. Even though he didn't say a word, he could see the disbelief in his eyes. "Fire, get out of the way." After Yun Luofeng finished speaking, he walked towards the old man who had fallen to the ground. "Halt!" The two guards' faces changed. Just as they were about to attack Yun Luofeng, the previously silent and cold man suddenly made his move. Without any warning, a powerful force entered their bodies, causing them to be unable to resist. They were sent flying by the attack and vomited 3 liters of blood. They could only watch as Yun Luofeng walked towards the old man. When the girl arrived in front of the old man, 3 silver needles suddenly appeared in her hand. She quickly and accurately inserted them into the acupuncture points on the top of the old man's head. Then, as her fingers moved, traces of spiritual power slowly surged into his body. Not long after, the unconscious old man opened his eyes. His eyes were filled with confusion. It was obvious that he did not know what had happened. "Sir!" Seeing that the old man had woken up, the guard's face lit up, and he fiercely glared at Fire. "Just now, this girl ambushed you, causing you to be seriously injured, this subordinate, how dare you?" The old man finally came back to his senses. He slapped the guard and interrupted him, "Apologize to this lady." The guard was completely dumbfounded. He didn't know what had happened. The old man no longer looked at him. He stood up from the ground and respectfully cupped his fists towards Yun Luofeng. "Young lady, did you save this old man just now?" Yun Luofeng glanced at him from the corner of his eye. "I just want to prove that the matter of you fainting has nothing to do with my sister." "Fire, let's go." The old man still wanted to say something, but Yun Luofeng did not give him the chance. After a moment, he disappeared in front of his eyes. He took a deep breath and said, "Investigate this girl's identity for me." "Yes, sir." The 2 guards cupped their fists and replied respectfully. Imperial Palace. In the Imperial study, a figure in bright yellow was reading through memorials. Perhaps it was because he had been too tired for the past few days. At this moment, the man's face was a little tired, and his complexion was a little sallow. "Your Majesty." A eunuch hurried over and reported, "Lord Xiantian is here." The man was startled and said, "Let him in." Yes, your majesty. After the eunuch finished speaking, he hurriedly retreated. After a while, an old man in a flaxen robe walked in from outside the imperial study. If Yun Luofeng was here, he would definitely be able to recognize this Lord Profound Heaven as the old man who had tried to blackmail him at the restaurant. Xian Tian, have you found a way to treat the Empress? The man's voice sounded a little tired as he asked calmly. Ever since the Empress married His Majesty, they had been deeply in love. Unfortunately, as an emperor, His Majesty had too many helplessness. It was impossible for him to have 3 palaces and 6 courtyards. For the sake of His Majesty, the Empress had tolerated other women. Perhaps out of guilt towards the Empress, the Emperor had always treated her very well. However, the road to happiness was strewn with setbacks. For some unknown reason, the Empress and the First Lady of the Yi family, Jun Fengling, were unable to conceive. As the ruler of a country, His Majesty was under great pressure because of this. Chapter 847. What caused His Majesty to break down even more was the fact that the Empress had contracted a terminal illness not too long ago and her days were numbered. To save the Empress's life, he had issued an order. Regardless of whether it was a prince or a princess, as long as they could save the Empress, they would be given the title of Crown Prince. His Majesty's infatuation with the Empress was clear. Your Majesty, you know that I am suffering from an old illness. If it is not cured, I will faint at any time and there is no way to treat it. There is no way to wake me up either. In the past, he would always keep track of the time and would not leave the house when he was in a coma. Hence, not many people knew about his old illness. Who would have thought that it would suddenly act up today? And then? The man furrowed his brows and asked. Xian Tian smiled. Then, I met a woman. She only gave me a few acupuncture needles and I woke up. Hence, I believe that the woman's medical skills are extremely high and no one in the Imperial Hospital can compare to her. If I can invite her over, perhaps she can cure my old illness. Even the Empress's illness. The man rose to his feet when he heard this. His eyes were filled with excitement and his breathing quickened. Where is that woman? We will send someone to invite her here immediately. No. We will invite her personally. As long as she can cure the Empress, we can ask for anything. Your Majesty, I have already sent someone to investigate the woman's identity. I believe that we will have news very soon. However, I can see that the woman has a cold temperament and wealth may not be able to attract her. As such a powerful doctor, she must have no interest in wealth but she should be interested in medicinal herbs, right? If she can cure the Empress, it doesn't matter if she has all the medicinal herbs in the imperial treasury. Xian Tian was shocked and stared in astonishment at the man's excited face. He did not expect her to offer such a great temptation. Xian Tian, we have owed the Empress too much all these years. If we had not hurt her heart so often, we would not have caused her to be childless for so many years. The man laughed bitterly. If we can cure the Empress, we can give up everything, even this country. Your Majesty. Xian Tian was shocked. He never thought that His Majesty would go to such lengths for the Empress. You don't need to persuade us. We have regretted it for so many years. What's the point of having so many concubines? The weight of those women in my heart cannot compare to the Empress. Especially with the Empress' serious illness this time, Jin understands even more that Jin cannot lose her. Xian Tian lowered his head. I respect your Majesty's wishes and will do my best to find that lady. Leave. The man waved his hand and sat down tiredly again. If there is any news of her, you must inform Jin. Jin will personally invite her to diagnose the Empress. Yes, Your Majesty. Xian Tian cupped his fists and retreated. As soon as he stepped out of the imperial study, he saw Jiang Mengyao walking towards him. In Tianyun Nation, doctors had a high status, especially Xian Tian, who was the head of the imperial physicians. He didn't need to salute anyone except the emperor. Therefore, when he saw Jiang Mengyao walking over, he only nodded in acknowledgement. Master Xian Tian, Jiang Mengyao stopped in her tracks and smiled. I have some questions about medicine that I don't understand. Can I ask you a few questions? Xian Tian frowned and said, I'm sorry, Sixth Princess, I still have some matters to attend to. I'm afraid I don't have the time to teach you. Jiang Mengyao was startled, but she quickly regained her senses. She smiled and said, It's all right. When Master has time, Mengyao will ask you a few questions. She then pushed open the door of the imperial study and walked in. Chapter 848. Sister-in-law, did something happen to you at the restaurant earlier? Yi Shima scratched the back of his head and asked in confusion as they walked along the busy street. Nothing. Yun Luofeng smiled. It's getting late. We should head back. Nothing happened. Then why did the people who were eating at the restaurant peek at you before we left? Sister-in-law, since you've come to the imperial city, I have to protect you as your brother. I can't let anyone bully you. Yi Shima patted his chest and said confidently. Yun Shao could not stand Yi Shima acting like a hero in front of Yun Luofeng. He glanced at him coldly and said, She has my protection. She doesn't need you. Her words didn't affect Yi Shima, so Yun Shao added, You won't be able to protect her with your abilities. Yi Shima was speechless. Yun Shao had hit his sore spot. Although he thought that he was talented, he could not be compared to Yun Shao. Yi Qi, you're just a dog adopted by the Yi family. How dare you bark at us? Have you forgotten that you're a dog? Suddenly, an arrogant voice was heard on the busy street, attracting Yun Luofeng's attention. Yi Qi was surrounded by a group of people not far away. Her pretty face was flushed and her eyes were filled with resentment. Yi Tianlin, I wouldn't have scolded you if you hadn't bad-mouthed my adoptive mother. You're the one in the wrong. I'm not at fault. Yi Qi bit her lip. Besides, even if I'm an adopted dog, I'm still the dog of my adoptive parents. What does that have to do with you? Oh, what a protective dog. Yi Tianlin laughed. Don't forget, all these years, your food, drink, and expenses have all been paid for by the Yi family. You'll do whatever I ask you to do. Now crawl between my legs. Otherwise, I'll make life miserable for both you and Yi Shima. Yi Qi clenched her fists angrily. In the end, she could not hold back her anger and punched Yi Tianlin in the face. 2 streaks of blood flowed from Yi Tianlin's nostrils. He wiped the blood from his nose and his face darkened. Damned girl, how dare you attack this young master? Do you think your adoptive parents can protect you? Don't forget, the imperial princess is this young master's future sister-in-law. Yi Qi regretted it as soon as she punched Yi Tianlin. She couldn't help stepping back, but she was still unwilling to be outdone by Yi Tianlin. She said firmly, What's so great about a royal princess? My sister-in-law is much better than her. Hee, Yi Tianlin sneered. Your sister-in-law? Are you talking about the wife of that bastard that Jun Fengling brought back? How could she be compared to the imperial princess? What a joke. Was her medical skills better than the princess, or was her family background better? Let me tell you, Princess Mingyao's master is a doctor who is second only to Master Xian Tian in Tianyun Nation. How do you think she can compare to Princess Mengyao? Of course, it was medical skills. In the beginning, when Yi Qi didn't know Yun Luofeng's identity, she had looked down on her just like everyone else. Furthermore, she had been used by Shui Roer, so she thought that Yun Luofeng was useless. But later, when he learned that she was Yun Luofeng, he never looked down on her again. Moreover, Yun Luofeng had cured her adoptive mother's infertility. How could Princess Mengyao compare to such powerful medical skills? However, Yi Qi knew that she couldn't let anyone else know about this, so she bit her lip and kept quiet. Chapter 849. Seeing Yi Qi backing away, Yi Tianlin became more and more pleased with himself. He raised his eyebrows and said, "Yi Qi, you must remember that you're just a dog in the Ye family. When your master feeds you, just wag your tail and beg for mercy. Don't even think about resisting." Yi Tianlin said. Yi Qi glared at Yi Tianlin fiercely. Who would have thought that her glare would completely enrage Yi Tianlin? Damned girl, you still dare to be so arrogant. Men, give this girl a good beating. Yi Tianlin clenched his fists and ordered coldly with a gloomy expression on his handsome face. Not only had this girl dared to hit him, but she was also unrepentant. Today, he would teach her a lesson. Yes, young Master Lin. In an instant, the group of guards behind Yi Tianlin rushed towards Yi Qi. One of the guards grabbed Yi Qi's arm tightly while another threw a punch at her. In an instant, half of Yi Qi's face swelled up like a pig's head. Tears welled up in her eyes, but she stubbornly refused to let them fall. She glared at Yi Tianlin with her pretty eyes full of grief and indignation. Damned girl, who gave you permission to look at me like that? Yi Tianlin walked up to Yi Qi with his head held high. He held her chin tightly with his fingers and said with a creepy smile, "What's the use of keeping a dog that dares to betray its master?" Yi Tianlin raised his hand and slapped Yi Qi's face fiercely again. Yi Qi was so frightened that she closed her eyes and her eyelashes trembled slightly. However, she did not feel any pain from the slap. Her eyelids trembled and she slowly opened her eyes. The man's back was facing Yi Qi. The hem of his clothes fluttered in the wind. His back was very thick, like a mountain, and it was very reassuring. In an instant, Yi Qi's heart skipped a beat. She stared at the man in front of her in a daze as an indescribable feeling surged into her heart. Yi Tianlin. The corners of the man's lips curled into a cold smile. His handsome face was curled into a mocking smile. "It seems that you've forgotten how I chased after you and beat you up a few years ago. Why? Now you want the old dream to come true." A trace of panic flashed in Yi Tianlin's eyes, but he forced himself to calm down. He gritted his teeth and said, "Back then, my uncle had a very high position in the Yi family, so I didn't dare to make a move against you. But now, my father is the head of the Yi family. What right do you have to go against me? What goes around comes around." Yi Jingchen used to have the highest status in the Yi family, but he ended up marrying a hen that couldn't lay eggs. Moreover, for so many years, for a woman who couldn't even bear a child, he wasn't even willing to take a concubine. As a result, the elders of the Yi clan became increasingly disappointed with him and even transferred their power to their own father. Yi Shima raised his eyebrows and sneered. "A few years ago, when I first came to the Yi family, I was able to beat you up so badly that you didn't dare to appear in front of me. A few years later, I can do the same. If you don't believe me, you can try." Yi Tianlin's expression changed. Facing Yi Qi, he would not be so panicked. After all, Yi Qi's talent was not very strong. However, he felt weak in front of Yi Shima. "Let's go." Yi Tianlin clenched his teeth and waved his hand. He turned around and was about to leave with the Yi family's guards. At that moment, a powerful spiritual power hit him from behind. Caught off guard, Yi Tianlin fell forward quickly with a bang and fell to the ground in a sorry state. Everyone was stunned. Even the guards behind Yi Tianlin looked at each other, not knowing whether they should pull their young master or not. It looks like you also know that you were wrong. Yun Luofeng curled the corners of his lips. However, even if you slap me enough, I won't accept your apology. What he meant was that Yi Tianlin was doing this to apologize. Poor Yi Tianlin, he wanted to defend himself, but his throat could not make a sound. He could only let Yun Luofeng slap his face again and again. As Yun Luofeng had been very secretive when she had inserted the needles, no one had seen her actions. Moreover, Yi Tianlin could not say anything, so they thought that he had silently agreed with Yun Luofeng's words. Chapter 851. Hence, everyone was dumbfounded and could not understand what had happened. How could the arrogant Yi Tianlin know that he was wrong? The entire street was so quiet that only the sound of Yi Tianlin slapping himself could be heard. In the end, his entire face was numb, but he still could not stop his hands. When the last slap landed, his body turned limp and he fell heavily to the ground. Young Master Lin. The guard hurried forward, wanting to help Yi Tianlin up. However, just as he arrived in front of Yi Tianlin, he was sent flying with a slap. Yi Tianlin shouted angrily, "What were you doing? Why didn't you come and help me?" The guard's voice faltered and he replied weakly, "Young master, didn't you apologize to her by slapping yourself? I thought you were apologizing, so..." Yi Tianlin's throat tightened and he could not voice his bitterness. He forced himself to his feet and glared fiercely at Yun Luofeng. "Damned girl, I'm the righteous young master of the Yi family. You're only the wife of a bastard. How dare you treat me in this way? I'll make you pay." Elder Yi Xiang had ordered that no one was allowed to speak of this matter before the blood test. Hence, even though Yi Tianlin was the young master of the Yi family, he was still unaware of this matter. "Let's go." He waved his hand and led the Yi family guards away in a sorry state, not daring to stay for even a moment longer. Yun Luofeng stared in the direction where those people had left and turned towards Yun Xiao. Only then did a smile appear on her peerlessly beautiful face. "Yun Xiao, let's go back." Yun Xiao nodded silently. Her grim black eyes stared in the direction of Yi Tianlin's departure as a murderous intent rose from the bottom of her eyes. At the Yi family home. In the courtyard, Yi Jingxian was walking out when he saw a badly battered Yi Tianlin walking over with a group of guards. Yi Jingshuan's brows immediately furrowed. Yi Tianlin had clearly noticed Yi Jingxian as well. Tears of grievance rolled down his face. "Father, you have to stand up for me. That bitch actually dared to beat me up like this. She's simply looking down on the Yi family." Yi Jingxian sighed. No one knew his son's character better than he did. Yi Tianlin and Yi Tianwen were different. As the eldest son, Yi Tianwen had a steady temperament. Otherwise, he would not have been able to capture Princess Mengyao. However, Yi Tianlin, who came from the same mother as Yi Tianwen, was a dandy through and through. He must have gone out to stir up trouble today and ended up kicking an iron plate. "Tell me, who is that bitch you mentioned?" Even though Yi Jingxian knew that his son must have provoked someone first, it didn't mean that he would allow anyone to bully his son. Yi Tianlin said with hatred, "Who else could it be? The woman beside that bastard Yun Xiao." "What?" Yi Jingshuan's expression changed as he shouted, "That bitch dared to hit my son. Unforgivable. Lin, I'll go and invite the elders to uphold justice. We'll definitely give you an explanation." Yi Tianlin lowered his eyelids with a sinister smirk at the corner of his eyes. Whether it was that bastard or Yi Shima, he would let them know the consequences of offending him. Within the imperial city, no one would dare to oppose him. Yi Shima had just stepped into the Yi family home when he sensed that something was wrong with the atmosphere. Just as he was hesitating, a servant hurried in and reported, young Master Mo, the clan elders are already waiting for you in the Great Hall. They have asked you to meet them when you return. Chapter 852. Clan Elder. They're looking for me at this time. Yi Tianlin must have gone to complain. Yi Shima sneered and turned to look at Yun Luofeng and Yun Xiao. Second brother, sister-in-law, wait for me in the room. I'll deal with those stubborn old men. There's no need, Yun Luofeng said calmly. Let's go together. How could Yi Shima not know that Yun Luofeng did not want him to face this alone because he was the one who caused this? He sighed softly and looked helpless. All right. But I'll say this first. Don't say anything later. Just leave everything to me. Yun Luofeng did not comment. His black eyes were full of smiles. As for what she was thinking, perhaps no one would know. In the hall, the air was suffocating. When Yun Luofeng stepped into the hall, all the elders in the hall looked at him in unison. Their eyes were filled with anger and reproach. Little Xiao, Feng, Jun Fengling quickly stood up and walked in front of Yun Luofeng and the rest. She blocked them as if she was protecting her children. She looked heroic. Don't worry. I'm here. No one can touch you at all. After saying that, she glanced at everyone in the hall fiercely. A cold glint flashed across her phoenix eyes. Yi Jingchen did not say anything. However, his actions had already shown his inner choice. Young Master Lin, tell us. What happened? Elder Yi Xiang lowered his head and asked after a moment of silence. Yi Tianlin complained with tears and snot running down his face. Elder, I was just chatting with Yi Qi on the street. Who knew that this woman would suddenly rush out and slap me a few times? She even slapped my face to such an extent. Elder, please seek justice for me. Yi Qi was furious. He was the one who had humiliated her godmother first. That was why she had gotten into a fight with him on the street. However, he made it sound like they were just chatting. Moreover, Yun Luofeng did not even lay a finger on him. Yet, he was slandering him. This has nothing to do with my sister-in-law. It's me. Yi Qi gritted her teeth and stood up. If it wasn't for her, they wouldn't have encountered such trouble. She should stand up and bear all the responsibility. Just as she was about to take on everything by herself, Yun Luofeng's evil voice rang out in the hall. Are you sure your face is swollen because of me? Yi Tianlin glared at Yun Luofeng. Who else could it be if not you? Suddenly, Yun Luofeng laughed. The Yi family guards here will naturally listen to you and help you frame me. Unfortunately, many people saw what happened just now. As long as they ask around, they will know that your face was swollen from slapping yourself. What nonsense are you talking about? Yi Tianlin's expression changed as he shouted in a stern voice. Yun Luofeng glanced at him evilly. I was wondering why you would slap your own face until it was swollen. So it was to frame me. Yi Tianlin was so angry that his face turned ashen. Although his face was not swollen from Yun Luofeng's slaps, he could guess that his previous loss of control was definitely related to this woman. Hearing Yun Luofeng's words, Yi Xiang's expression darkened. His cold gaze swept across the guards in the hall and he said in a low voice, before the master hands over the position to the second young master, this Yi family is still under my control. Now, tell me immediately what happened to young Master Lin's injuries. It's fine if you lie. I will naturally send people to investigate. If I find out that you're lying, you know the consequences. Chapter 853. The guards looked at each other and knelt on the ground, begging, Elder, it was young Master Lin who injured himself. We had no choice but to lie for young Master Lin. Please forgive us, Elder. Elder Yi Xiang's expression gradually darkened. He glanced at Yi Tianlin coldly. Is that true? Yi Tianlin had initially questioned Elder Yi Xiang in a righteous manner, but now that he had heard Elder Yi Xiang's words, he immediately shriveled up and said timidly, Elder, it was this bitch who controlled my hand. That's why I hid myself. It's all her fault. Slap. A slap suddenly landed on Yi Tianlin's face, leaving him dumbfounded. He stared at the man standing in front of him in shock. Unfilial son. Yi Jingshuan's expression was furious. How did I educate you? Is this how you treat your brothers and sisters? Go back to your room and reflect. Without my evil orders, you're not allowed to step out of your room. Yi Tianlin covered his face and glared at Yun Luofeng with resentment and unwillingness. If looks could kill, perhaps Yun Luofeng would have been executed by him. Big brother, Yi Jingxian faced Yi Jingchen and smiled. This is a misunderstanding between the younger generation. Big brother, you've always been a reasonable person. I'm sure you won't make things difficult for Lin, because of this. He didn't admit his mistake at all. Instead, he claimed that if Yi Jingchen didn't let it go, then he wasn't a reasonable person. If anyone else had heard this, they would have forgiven Yi Tianlin's behavior in order to show their generosity. Unfortunately, he wasn't facing an ordinary person. He was facing the hot-tempered Jun Fengling and the crazy wife protector Yi Jingchen. You're right. Jun Fengling's face lit up with a smile. Your big brother is indeed a reasonable person. Yi Jingxian smiled. Jun Fengling's reaction was already within his expectations. This woman was still the same as before. In order to gain the Yi family's approval, she was willing to swallow her anger. But, suddenly, the woman's tone changed. It's precisely because your big brother is reasonable and knows what's right and wrong that I'll make sure you give my son and daughter-in-law an explanation today. Yi Jingshuan's expression darkened. I call you sister-in-law because of my big brother. Otherwise, do you think the Yi family would acknowledge your existence? Right now, I'm talking to big brother. Since when do you have the right to interrupt? Yi Jingchen glanced at him coldly and said indifferently, she is my wife. Her words represent my decision. As Yi Jingchen's words fell, the other elders couldn't help but stand up. Voices of criticism and rebuke rang out in the hall. Eldest young master, as a man, how can you listen to a woman? Women should remember the 3 obediences and 4 virtues. How can a woman who doesn't keep her chastity have the face to stay in the Yi family? In a family, the man is the one who calls the shots, which is also the woman's heaven. This woman even dared to rebel against the heavens. They should be captured and beaten to death. Yet, eldest young master is still so protective of her. Yun Luofeng instinctively placed his hand on Jun Fengling's shoulder. From the side, he caught a glimpse of the woman's cold and heroic face and could not help but frown. Had she been living like this all these years? Just because she had met someone unkind in the past, she was being criticized like this. She was even pointing at her nose and spitting at her. Why was it natural for men to be fickle while women had to follow the 3 obediences and 4 virtues? She even treated men as her heaven. Chapter 854. In her past life, Yun Luofeng had only lived for herself. She had never thought that men were everything to her. Hence, she had remained single for over 20 years in her past life. Now, even after having Yun Shao, she still did not regard men as her sky. She would only work hard to grow and reach the level where she could fight alongside him. Yun Shao. Yun Luofeng clenched her fists tightly as she sensed the cold aura from the man next to her. A demonic light flashed across her lowered brows. Leave this matter to me. At least, she could not allow Yun Xiao to reveal her true power before the most important person had appeared. All of you, shut up. At this moment, an angry bellow suddenly rang out, causing the noisy hall to fall silent in an instant. Yi Jingchen clenched his fists so tightly that they made cracking sounds. His eyes were filled with rage as he swept his cold gaze across the elders present. I, Yi Jingchen, am the eldest young master of the Yi family. My wife is naturally the young madam. Who allowed you to offend your superiors? What do you mean by the 3 obediences and 4 virtues? Do you think that I need a woman who is a yes man to me? Or a so-called virtuous wife and loving mother? All I want is a confidant who can spend the rest of my life with me. In this world, only June can resonate with my soul. You bastards who only use the lower half of your bodies will never feel this way. Yi Jingchen was known for his gentleness in the imperial city. Now that he had been forced to fly into a rage, it was clear to see how angry these people had made him. Yun Luofeng looked at Yi Jingchen. No matter how many old antiques there were in the Yi family, they had still managed to nurture a temperamental person like Yi Jingchen. Yun Xiao, it seems that I don't need to help mother deal with these matters. With father here, she won't suffer any more grievances. Yun Xiao was stunned. He lowered his head to stare at the young girl's beautiful face and promised, I won't let you suffer any grievances either. This man does not know how to use flowery words, he doesn't even know how to smile. Yet, every word that he says is so serious. Yun Xiao, when have you ever seen me suffer? Yun Luofeng smiled as she asked. Indeed, she had never suffered any grievances all these years. Meeting her, the unlucky ones would always be others. Whether it was a war of words or a fight, she had never lost to anyone. At this moment, Jun Fengling was also frightened by Yi Jingchen's sudden anger. She stared at him in surprise. In all these years, this was the first time she had seen this man lose his temper, but he was so handsome that she couldn't take her eyes off him. As long as I, Yi Jingchen, am alive, don't even think about bullying my wife and child. Yi Jingchen shot a warning glance at the antiques. As for what you just said, if I hear another word from you, I'll kill you old farts one by one, even if it means disobeying my father. Jun, let's go. Yi Jingchen held Jun Fengling tightly in his arms with a determined look on his face. From the moment he decided to return to the Yi family, he swore that he would not let his wife suffer any grievances. Now, he had done it. Treason, betraying the clan, so what? In this life, there was only one person he wanted to protect. Elder Yi Xiang, look at eldest young master. All the elders looked at Yi Xiang with resentment in their voices. Have you guys had enough? Elder Yi Xiang said calmly. Haven't you embarrassed yourself enough? Back then, eldest young master was forced to go to Kargalik by you. Now that he's finally back and has no intention of fighting with second young master for the position, why do you have to make things difficult for a woman? Chapter 855. The voices of all the elders froze, and they were actually unable to speak a single word of rebuttal. Yi Xiang stood up slowly. If the world knew that our Yi family was making things difficult for a woman, how do you think they would look at us? His tone was as calm as ever, and there was not a trace of emotion in his turbid eyes. However, his words were like thunder, exploding in all the elders' hearts. The blood identification ceremony will be held in 3 days. Before that, I don't need to cause any trouble. With that, Yi Xiang waved his sleeves and walked out of the hall. As he left, the other elders also dispersed. Soon, only Yi Jingxian and his son were left in the hall. Father! Yi Tianlin said angrily. Yun Luofeng must have been behind this. Yi Jingxian sighed softly. I know about this. Then why did you, Yi Jingxian glanced at Yi Tianlin. Many things aren't as simple as you think. In the Yi family, besides your grandfather, Elder Yi Xiang is the most qualified. I've tried to rope this old thing in for so many years, but I still haven't been able to pull him into my camp. Yi Jingxian gritted his teeth, his eyes dark. Plus, this old thing hates fratricide the most. So, even if I believed you, I still had to teach you a lesson. Otherwise, if this old thing reported me to your grandfather, he would definitely be displeased. Yi Tianlin lowered his head. Father, I know I was wrong. You know you were wrong. Do you know what you were wrong about? I shouldn't have made that bastard my enemy. No. Yi Jingxian shook his head. You weren't wrong to go against Yi Jingqian's children. You just didn't have anything to use against them. So, if you don't have full confidence that you can kill them in one strike, it's best if you don't restrain yourself. All these years, Yi Jingxian hadn't done anything because he wasn't confident that he could kill Yi Jingqian and was afraid that Yi Jingqian would have something to use against him. What he wanted to do was to kill them in one strike. Otherwise, he would let them continue to live. Father, I understand. Yi Tianlin raised his head. Oh right, what's with the blood test that Elder Yi Xiang mentioned just now? Hearing this, Yi Jingxian was stunned. He glanced at Yi Tianlin and sighed. There's no harm in telling you this. That bastard Yun Shao might be Yi Jingqian's son. What? Yi Tianlin was stunned by these words. After a long while, he finally reacted and said angrily, back then, because first uncle had no children, the position of young master of the Yi family was given to you, father. If first uncle had a son, then, Yi Jingxian smiled, interrupting Yi Tianlin. That's fine. Don't forget that her son, Jun Fengling, had been expelled from the family because he couldn't cultivate. He was a complete piece of trash. Moreover, so what if the blood test succeeded? Would the Yi clan allow a wastrel to exist? At that time, his identity will not be announced to the public. He will be a member of the Yi family's bloodline in name only. Only then did Yi Tianlin relax. A dark glint flashed across his eyes. One day, he would make those people regret bullying him. Remember not to tell anyone about this. Otherwise, I'm afraid it'll be hard to clean up the mess, Yi Jingxian instructed solemnly. Yi Tianlin returned to his senses and replied seriously, Father, don't worry. I'll definitely keep my mouth shut. I won't say a word.